All right. Hello, everybody. This is A7XfanBen here with Xerecs only for episode number 17 of the Pirate CSG Podcast. God Mason is having a computer issue, so we're doing this little random one-off episode just with Xerecs and I. And we're mostly going to talk about customs and campaign games tonight. So I've got some interesting new customs I'm revealing, sort of a grand reveal, if you will. We're going to talk about some other ones, not just mine. And we're going to get into some general campaign game discussion towards the end, along with probably a few other random topics and whatnot. So we're in custom ships organized version. We've already covered, I think, all of Bendari's customs, so I'm just going to jump straight to Silvaxry. And the first, I'm going to go a little bit, almost to the middle of the post. I see the Elegance, which is a Jade Rebellion One Master, and it's a Wind Catcher, which is interesting because wind catchers have 3 masts normally. So this one only has 1. I kind of imagine it as maybe the 4-mast of a wind catcher kind of has like the 1-masted sloop sail design. So it might look something like that. It's got a 3L cannon, 4 cargo, and L movement. So I would say it doesn't have a point cost because he doesn't really assign that to the ships. I would peg it at maybe 8 points. I would say it's a pretty solid Jade Rebellion Gold Runner if it was used in games. So it's a pretty good ship.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that it's a wind catcher means you can like turn it 180 and go from there. That's kind of nifty and fun.
Yeah.
But it's odd that he only gave this one mast. So
yeah,
I'm trying to figure what that would look like. I think you're hit the nail on the head with like it would be like just the 4-mast on them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, 8 points sounds about right. Maybe 9.
Yeah.
If you wanted to stretch it a little. I could see this going either way. It could be a small Gold Runner, or it could be a small hybrid.
Yeah.
I mean, Captain and Helmsman, you've got 2 cargo spaces left. And yeah,
it's pretty solid ship.
Pretty simple little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too particularly crazy.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the other things we can get on here.
Yeah. We're going to see a lot of crazy ones eventually.
Yeah. All right. Are we moving on now to next up?
Yeah.
Because I think we covered everything there is to say about the Elegance here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving on, we're gonna skip some of mine for this one. Mm-hmm. All right. So El Cazador. All right. I'm gonna take a look at. Okay. Have we talked about the bunker? His mercenary fort.
I can't recall.
Do we remember?
I don't know. I think we might have. I don't know.
Excuse me.
Yeah, we might have.
All right, then. And I'm going to go up to this Baldwin Gassernal, or Gassernarl. Mm-hmm. A mercenary crew, 6 points. Links to a ship that I believe is called the Dandarius. Expatriate, hostile France, born leader. English crew may use their abilities on this ship. All right. It's an interesting crew.
Yeah.
All right, 6 points. Born leader is essentially same action twice. So, and then the other ability with the English crew. I feel this guy could maybe be a point less.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe, but 5, 6, it's not much of a big difference.
Yeah.
And since he's a mercenary, just based on some of the things I already know of, I'm thinking of, like, if you could find, like, you put this person on the forward, you would have enough points and cargo space to bring on some very decent English crew.
Yeah.
The first person that comes to my head is either one of their world-hating captains, either the Mysterious Islands Hermione Gold or the Disney Pirates Admiral Norrington.
Yeah.
You would therefore get a double cannon bonus, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think the forward has the true world-hating, where it's just +1 against any ship, period.
Yep.
And then the Englishmen come aboard and they specify it, anything non-English.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's a nice little combo you could do with that. Mm-hmm. No flavor text, but there it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. You got anything else to add here for this?
Not a lot. I think it would be interesting. The mercenaries never got a marine, so I don't really like how Marines can shoot on
yeah.
submerged submarines, but you could put this on like a ram sub, as God Mason would call it, to get SAT, and then to try to do 2 rams per turn. And then with English crew, you could bring aboard an English Marine.
They have like at least 3, I think.
Yeah,
that you could probably fit onto something like the Devil Ray.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that one would be pretty cheap because you wouldn't be able to fit it on. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. They could make a decent combo between this crew, and then like an English Marine and maybe a helmsman or a reroll or something like that. So, yeah, I think it's a solid crew with some potential. Yeah. All right. I'll go to our next creator in the thread, which is God Mason, who should be back next episode, which will be great. I'm going to go to a custom called the Stolen Kite. This is a cursed ship. It's got 1 mast, 4 cargo, S move, and a 4L cannon. It's galley, and it says cannons must roll a 6 to hit this ship, just like the Lucy's Luck and Pestilence. And then it says this ship gets plus S to its base move for every time it was shot at the previous turn. Wow, that's interesting.
So that is very interesting.
Yeah, so it's hard to hit. Then if it gets shot at all, it gets faster for its next turn. So that's pretty cool. The flavor, it says even after death, the theater troupe has recruited to row the ship play tricks on the living.
Yeah.
That's clever.
That secondary ability seems like something that would be a headache to keep track of.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Would be definitely worth keeping track of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right? Because if say something like the size of a 6-masted junk shot at this thing and missed, or just didn't roll that 6, that's like 6 extra S movements to its base move of S.
Yeah, so, it transforms into a really fast ship. Yeah,
it's like holy moly.
Yeah.
I don't think this is worth 6 points with that ability.
Yeah.
I think maybe a couple more, like 8.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 8 or 9, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the 4L cannon, I don't know if that ability, the second half of this ability, would be considered a negative ability.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with such a good combo, because it has a defensive ability. If it didn't have a defensive ability, maybe it would be kind of a negative. I don't know. Yeah. It's still pretty good.
So
and
this
the other thing is that it's 6 points, 4 cargo S move. So for the cursed, with a helmsman, it would be 3 cargo SS move for 8 points, which is actually a decent gold runner for the cursed, regardless of the other abilities. Yeah. So it's pretty good as is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
The other thing,
you can still get that 6 on the first cannon hit, and then it's basically all over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or ram damage, which I know God makes.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, about. 1 mast ship.
Yeah.
Avoid shooting together since it's a galley. You can't be pinned to it.
Yeah. And then it says gets plus S to its base move for every time it was shot at the previous turn. So I'm assuming that would be every cannon shot and not shoot action, but that would just be one thing to clear up.
Yeah, assuming it works that way. Like every individual cannon.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, the Stolen Kite, interesting custom. I kind of like it, but it should be at least 2 points more expensive and maybe even more than that. So that's it for Custom Ships Organized version for this episode. We're now going to move on to some of my new customs. I actually just submitted something I've been hinting at for probably a week now, which is a huge batch of custom game pieces for my new fantasy set. I've been making a bunch of customs past like 3 weeks or so, and they're basically all fantasy customs, and I'm always known for historical customs, which is my main custom set called Pirates of the Age of Sail. I have links to that in most of my recent posts in Custom Ships have the link to the spreadsheet. But now I created a new set. It's going to be all fantasy stuff, no historical stuff. So it's a pretty fun set. And
I was like grinning ear to ear when you started posting these. I was like, yay!
I know. Yeah, that's pretty
Someone other than me has like done wacky things.
Yeah, I always prefer the historical stuff, but I still do like some of the wackier stuff, and the Cursed are pretty much the best faction to experiment with like crazy stuff. The general name of the set tentatively is called Pirates of the Epic Seas. So I'm always like epically inclined and stuff. And the set kind of reflects that. There's pretty much too many like large ships. It's kind of ridiculous. I think the Jade Rebellion alone has 8 or 9 new 6-masted junks.
Yeah, I'm looking at your post here for like the first time because I was like, it says here 8 new 6-masted junks.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then the Barbary Corsairs are getting a bunch of 4-masters. There's a handful of other like epic type pieces, including a lot of curse stuff, which is like unholy, like biblical type stuff. Taking inspiration from a handful of like random sources, because the curse make a lot of sense for that kind of theme. That's kind of like their theme for this set, along with some random stuff thrown in. But
boarding.
Yeah.
It's what they do. When they're not slowly dying.
I know it was tough not to give like boarding abilities like every curse like ship or crew, so especially the crew that are like named after like worms and like creatures and beasts and stuff. So, but yeah, I just submitted a big post. There's 45 new custom game pieces in it, and I submitted it just in time for Xerecs to give feedback on some of the custom pieces. So we're not going to go over all of them, to say the least. Maybe like a dozen or something. But yeah, you can start. You can just pick one, go from the top, or just pick one that looks interesting, and we can just alternate like usual.
Well, I'll start at the very, very top for now. Great Apostasy, I believe. Is that how you say it? Apostasy?
I don't know. I say apostasy, but I have no idea.
Oh, apostasy. So. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. Cursed, 23 points. Ooh, expensive. 6 masts. Okay, that's why it's expensive. 4 cargo, base speed. All right, and cannons that average out to 4 rank 3S and 2 rank 3Ls, with 3Ls smack dab in the middle. All right, and okay. Junk, fire pot specialists, stink pot specialists, and enemy ships with an S over this ship get -1 to their cannon rolls. Okay, and flavor. Yay, flavor text. Crushing the hopes and spirits of sailors everywhere is the great... I forget how to say it already. An inky blackness seems to emanate from her hold, where the sounds of cursed hordes and tortured captives mix to create an eerie wail heard across the waters. Doom awaits those who face her in battle. Ha ha ha, I love flavor text like that. All right, okay, this, at first glance, I'm going to say, this does seem to be worth every point of that 23 points. 4 cargo, that's about average, I think, for 6-masted junks across the board, taking into account Jade Rebellion ones, and the handful of ones that are not Jade Rebel custom and otherwise. I'm not sure how to price that reverse world hating ability.
Yeah, that's
like
the
enemy ships with an S get -1 to their cannon rolls.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of like the Albatross UT.
Yeah,
a little bit,
really
but specifically just to cannons.
Yeah.
Because fire pot and stink pot specialists, those are 2-point crew abilities. So, and I would say I'd say a bulk of your point cost here is coming from that last ability.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to underprice it, but I still may have. It's a really good defensive ability. Maybe not on par with the Accorzado, but it's pretty darn good. Yeah, it's kind of, the flavor text is kind of reflected in that ability, because it's like, I read about the Great Apostasy, like, concept on Wikipedia, and I thought like a really nasty defensive ability that kind of is like this ship kind of brings despair to all non-cursed factions. So I want to kind of reflect that. And then the other abilities kind of do too, because it kind of creates chaos wherever it goes, and like brings doom and gloom to all who oppose it, basically. So.
All right, makes sense a bit. Right. Although, still, 23 is a lot to me, especially since you're getting a 6-masted gunship moving around with a helmsman realistically at S+S.
Yeah, it's still not a great deal.
I'll say this, though, that point cost, you'll be able to put several expensive named curse crew on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like either version, well, I don't know. Does the Davy Jones curse version of Jones link to all curse ships, or is that his Ocean's Edge variant explicitly?
Yeah, I think it's just the OE version, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, 12 points out of 23, you'd still have enough for a captain, a helmsman, an oarsman, and maybe something eternal.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's a solid ship. It kind of continues in the a horizontal theme of like a really slow ship that costs a ton and has like a defensive ability. So I mean that wasn't the inspiration at all, but
But although if you have like someone who is blessed with die, and they're shooting at you with rank 2 cannons and only roll 5 or 6s, it's like
the other thing I think is interesting, I didn't think of this when I created the ability of any enemy ships within S, which is you could shoot at it outside of S, which is solid. It makes it a little bit
range.
Yeah, it's not all ships. They get mined with one of their cannon rolls, and I guess a world hater would just like negate everything, because then the ship would just be shooting with its regular cannon. So it's kind of a cool thought.
Yeah.
All right.
So maybe it could come down a couple points based on those. I don't know if you want to call it weaknesses in that ability.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You could maybe extend the range to just L, or just make it straight simply enemy ships, regardless of range, get -1 to their cannon rolls against this ship.
Yeah, maybe.
And not specify a range.
Yeah.
Right. So if you didn't specify the range, I think then it's definitely worth 23.
Okay.
Because even if you're sniping at it with like power cannons on like the El Neptuno, or like kind of range or somehow, then you still get
to think about. Right. Yeah. Cool. I'll start another one. I do like the next one, so I'll go over that one. Most of the customs in this post that I'm excited about are the curse ones, but I'm probably forgetting some of the other ones too. So
I like the cursed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this set is making me like them more, which I talk about at the end of the post. But the next one is called the Black Death, which probably symbolizes what you might think the reasoning is behind that. The cursed get a 5-master here. It's 16 points, 4 cargo, SS speed. The guns are 3L, 3S, 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 3L, and then the abilities are Massacre, which means that if the ship wins a boarding party, you can eliminate all the other ship's crew. And the ship sinks when no crew are assigned to her. So it has a pretty nasty negative ability. So I'll read the flavor next, though. Flavor says, a huge hooded figure came to this crew with a revelation. He had discovered a trace of the Black Death, the plague of society, centuries earlier. The crew eagerly became infected with the disease which being gave immunity to. Now they spread the old horror on the seas, eventually killing all they encounter. To ensure that quote-unquote regular folk would never be able to make a cure for the disease, the mysterious being cursed the ship to sink if the crew were somehow eliminated for good. So that explains both of the abilities. Basically, the crew is infected with bubonic plague. It's gonna like kill everybody that they cross paths with. So it's a good cursed ship. It seems cheap at first for that speed, the spread of guns and massacre, but then if you can manage to kill all the crew on the ship, it sinks automatically, which is pretty nasty.
Cargo eliminators would be the absolute bane of this thing's existence.
Yeah, absolutely. Or another ship with massacre.
Yeah, another massacre ship against this.
Yeah, there's no protection.
What would be handy then would be to somehow find a way to get a crew protector on here, along with an eternal ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's enough cargo and point space where you could do that, but I don't know if the cursed have those abilities on crew, at least both of them. I know they've got 1 or 2 eternal crew.
I don't think they have crew protect. At least
not on a crew.
Yeah.
Not on a crew. To my knowledge, the only other source of crew protection for the cursed is the Dark Pact.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, what you could do is you could get the Copier Jones on here to copy that.
Yeah.
But the Pact is 13 points, and Jones himself is 11.
Yeah.
So that's another 24 points in addition to the 16 you pay for this ship.
Yeah, that's crazy. I just saw a couple customs down. I have a custom crew with crew protect, which is not the intention here, but that's kind of ironic.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah, no, anyway. It's a link to another one, but anyway. Yeah, I think this ship is fairly costed. I don't know. I wouldn't really want to make it cheaper because it is pretty darn good, even with the nasty negative ability. And then another thing is to, obviously you would want to fill it up with crew. So I would do at least Captain Helm's Northman and probably more, maybe
some extra weaponry people. Yeah, the specialists.
Yeah, or a cannoneer. Even like cheap generics that would just help to make it hard to eliminate all of them at once. So.
Yeah. That It reminds me of the that old ability. It's like this ship sinks when she has no masts, or when her last mast is eliminated.
Yeah,
like seen way back when in Spanish Main and on other ships since then.
Yep, absolutely.
I like the new take on that.
Yeah.
Because at the bare minimum, if you wanted to run this as a somewhat durable gold runner, I don't know why you would, but it's possible. At the bare minimum, you'd put an oarsman because it doesn't take up space, and then you'd toss on maybe a helmsman and an explorer, and that way you're protected from at least one or two boarding parties. But
yeah, I would just use it as gunship, but yeah.
Base speed like that for the cursed, especially, who most of their 5-masted ships are squids, which can't usually move and shoot on their own.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty good one. All right, I'm gonna scroll down and try to find a Jade Rebellion one.
Cool.
I'm looking at a lot of these. There's some cursed ones I'm gonna have to come back to because their names look cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some more soon.
Yay! Okay, here's the Jade Rebels. All right. Ooh, this one's interesting. Grand Tomb. All right, Jade Rebellion. 14 points, 6 masts, 3 cargo. Speed L. Okay. All right, we have cannons of 2S, 3S, 4S, 4S, 3S, 2S. Okay. All right, we have junk, that crew massacre ability. And crew on this ship are eliminated after a number of turns equal to their original point cost. Oh, interesting. Okay. Flavor. One of the oldest and most deadly ships in the Jade Rebellion fleet, the Grand Tomb is a repository for souls who have died on the sea. According to recent legend and hysteria, the ship is being recruited by the cursed. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. All right, so 3 cargo space limits how much crew you can put on this. The middle 4S cannons make me hesitate to use this as a gunship, but with only 3 cargo spaces, you can't really do any kind of gold running with this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the idea behind it is that.
Ability.
Yeah, that's interesting. The idea behind it is that it's kind of like a graveyard on the ocean. So there's so many there's so many tombs or there's so many caskets in the hold that you don't have room for people that are alive.
Okay. So, another way to look at it would be a retirement ship.
Yeah.
It's like a floating retirement home.
Yeah, almost like that.
Or since I think the Jade Rebellion is based loosely on I think ancient China.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever had any kind of ancestor worship or shrine stuff exactly. I'm not well versed in that history. Yeah. But I think they might have.
Yeah,
I
possibly.
knew.
Yeah.
But this could be one of those kind of ships, like you said, like a floating cemetery graveyard thing where it's all right, come to pay your respects and get off quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the abilities reflect that, because then if you lose a boarding party, all the crew die, and then they join, they get their own tombs on the ship, basically. And then the last ability, crew on the ship are eliminated after a number of turns equal to the original point cost. That one is nasty, because you have to time how you use it. So it's and I said in the comment right below it, a helmsman is only going to last 2 turns. So, I mean, it's a really bad negative ability, to the point where maybe it should be cheaper, but for 6 masts and L move and master, it's tough to make it much cheaper than 14. So, I think it's...
Yeah, I agree.
It's kind of a fun concept to play around with. It's mostly just flavor-based. I have a bunch of the new customs I have are almost purely flavor-based, and so they're not necessarily good in game. And then of course other ones are too good maybe, but yeah, this one's a good example of flavor over everything, even in game, prowess.
And I could see Wiz Kids may have done something like this maybe down the line if they'd kept going.
Yeah, absolutely.
People would gnash their teeth over how do we use this? It's what's a good reason for this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess.
How do I make this useful?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, it is a kind of a funky ship actually. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm thinking about shipping Sai. He would last 5 turns because he's 5 points.
Yeah. That's not too bad.
He links to all ships, all Jade Rebel ships, which is cool.
Yeah.
You'd have to hope you get that same action twice every single turn.
Mm-hmm.
And this would not be a place to put those 0-point linking crew because they would die instantly.
Yep. All right. I'll pick another one. I'm gonna go back up to the Cursed. Do their third ship here. This one is one of the ones I'm most excited about. It's one of their like flagships of the set, if you will. It's called the Fall of Lucifer. It's a cursed ship. It's 4 masts. It's 27 points.
Yowza.
6 cargo. L speed. All 4 guns are 2L, so the best guns you can have. It's got a bunch of abilities. 2 hits from the same shoot action are required to eliminate one of the ship's masts. So the Corazzado's defensive ability. You may double the range of the ship's cannons each turn, but you must roll a 6 to hit. So the sniping ability. And then it says, when the ship sinks, roll a d6 for every ship within Essever, so friendly or enemy. On a 1 to 3, replace one of that ship's masts with a fire mast. So basically, if it does sink, eventually it blows up.
It's like a giant fireball.
Yeah.
All right, so this is, I guess, worth that 27 points.
Yeah, it should be, hopefully. It's got a couple links to crew, which we'll hopefully talk about. And then the flavor says, an ungodly ship that may never sink, the crew of this vessel have a malice that is nearly unrivaled on the high seas. Her captain is the Archangel Fiend, a creature so vile that sailors have fainted in his presence, and sacrifices are made daily to keep a constant supply of fresh meat for the crew.
Ooh, cannibals.
So it's like, it's just like the epitome of the Cursed. Like they were like
worshiping, and/or zombies.
Yeah, they're like worshiping Lucifer, and they have this big flagship, which is really good defensively and offensively. It's like one of those god ships that's like totally over the top, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah. So. And with that much cargo and point space, you could stuff, I'm going to say maybe 3 Cursed named crew who are not the links, who are not their linked, and you would still have enough room maybe to grab a coin or 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could run a very one-ship hybrid fleet with this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, we could go over the name crew too if you want.
Yeah, all right. Let's go to the name crew because I am interested now. I want to see what the intent is here with this. All right. Archangel Fiend. I like to pronounce it hard sometimes with that. Whatever. All right. Cursed, obviously. 9 points. Okay. Captain, Fear. When this ship hits an enemy ship, you may also eliminate 1 cargo from that ship. Oh boy. Link, Fall of Lucifer. All right, we just talked about. Flavor. This maniacal and brutal fiend has no limits. The extent of the evil that goes on aboard his ship is unspeakable. We're speaking of it. With word spreading of his exploits, nearly every sailor knows to avoid him like the devil himself. Well, isn't that ironic? I think this kind of is him.
I know, yeah.
All right, so like Fear. Interesting. All right, so Captain is worth 3, and that cargo elimination ability is 4, so that's 7. So treating Fear like 2 points. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Considering the way Fear works, as is, released by WizKids. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Makes the Fall of Lucifer a wee bit more interesting. Because if you get up close and personal, Fear could kick in and do something to the other ship. I wouldn't bet too much on it, but it's still possible to happen.
I like the thought of eliminating cargo with the sniping ability.
Yeah, I like that as well.
It'd be nasty.
To do that, though, you'd have to either stack up some cannon bonuses and or get very, very lucky with dice. But I think the cannon bonuses would be the better way to go. The trick is getting that to work.
Yeah.
Because to my knowledge, WizKids released and custom otherwise, I haven't looked at anywhere else in this thread yet. The Cursed have 1 world-hating crew.
Yeah.
And it's the DJC version of El Phantasma, which has reverse captain tacked onto it as well, which is blah.
Yeah, that's probably like the worst version of Phantasma, pretty much too. So
yeah. So the way to boost this ship's cannons, so the sniping ability will you can get some wiggle room there. You'd either need to I'd say hijack one of those guys from like Thomas Gunn. From Fire and Steel, or Roberto Santana.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Also from Fire and Steel, and place them in your fleet somewhere. and or maybe like a faction cannon bonus on the ship.
Yeah.
As a last resort, you could maybe bring a cheerleading ship.
Yeah, that'd be.
But those are very expensive usually.
Yeah. This guy Archangel Fiend, he's designed as like kind of like a personification of evil, and he's one of the main cursed named crew in the set. And I tried to do like a naming scheme with a lot of the ships and crew with the curse that's kind of like epic and like crazy. I just kind of like saying the names, like the Fall of Lucifer and linked to the Archangel Fiend.
Yeah.
And it gets even crazier with some of the other ones. But
yeah.
All right, so I'll go on. The other crew the Fall of Lucifer is linked to is called the Disciples of Lucifer. This is a curse name crew, 6 points, 2 abilities, Cannoneer, and the ship's crew cannot be eliminated unless she sinks. So crew protect, links to the ship. And then flavor is making up the bulk of the crew aboard the Fall of Lucifer. These so-called disciples have a reputation for bizarre sacrificial worship. That is when they're not slaughtering innocents by the hundreds. So these people are like demonic and crazy and totally worship Lucifer to the end of the earth. And they have good abilities though. They combo with the ship pretty well. You could reshoot one of the snipe shots with Cannoneer, and then like we talked about, 6 cargo and 27 points. So crew protect is a really good thing to have on the Fall of Lucifer too. So it's a pretty good link, both of them.
Yeah, and just between these two, that's 15 points out of the Fall of Lucifer's 27.
Yeah.
So that leaves you with roughly, I think, 12 points to work with.
Yeah.
I think.
And then 10 with a helmsman. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 with a helmsman. You could just go swing straight for the fences and toss Davy Jones on this to make it that your definite godship right there.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you could get real crazy with that.
Yeah.
It'd be even funny. Funner? Is that? I don't know. You could even get even crazier with a point reducer like Sir Edmund Atkinson.
Yeah.
Or just Sir Edmund, whatever his.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Fire and Steel where he showed up again?
Yeah, that was the curse version. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right. I like this.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's one of my favorite like flavor inspirations for the set, along with some of the other ones like the Bones of the Antichrist, and then some of the other the Black Star and Moon Sorcerer. Those are some of my favorites too. But yeah, anyway. All right.
In a way, it's almost a shame you're publishing these now when the cursed are about to be eliminated from CG3.
Oh, I thought about that. Yep, I know.
I would definitely use this.
Yeah, I know.
I would definitely use some of these for certain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of ironic timing, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. Next one.
More on that later, right? Nice.
Yep. On to the next one.
Yeah.
All right. So back to me again. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna scroll down. Let's go see what we have in the Corsairs.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh. Apis. All right. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Caught my eye. Corsair. 17 points. Ooh. For a 3-master. Interesting. For a cargo, S+S, 2S, 3S, 4S. Okay. Regular Corsair cannon oddities. All right. Galley. On the turn this ship is pinned, eliminate 1 crew and 1 mast from the rammed ship. This ship gets +2 to her boarding rolls. Okay. All right. Nothing too particularly crazy. Ooh, whoops. Almost missed the flavor text. Named after the sacred bull of Egyptian mythology, the Apis is a boarding-focused ship that slams into enemies with maximum impact. Okay.
Yes, that explains the abilities. So, like, when it gets pinned and then the +2 boarding rolls. I pegged those as pretty expensive, especially because on the pinning ability, if you have that on bigger ship, usually it's on the little tiny suicide ships, but on a bigger ship, it'll theoretically get used more often. So... And it's a pretty good ship in its own right, regardless of the abilities. So it might still be too expensive, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just realizing, though, this should read on the turn this ship rams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep. I think it's because I just copied it from, like, the Maryland or something.
Okay. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yeah, 17 points, moving around pretty quickly. +2 to boarding rolls, which means in boards you're essentially starting out with 5 before rolling dice. I don't know if I'd put this at 17.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially since Corsairs tend to run cheap.
Yeah.
And I like to see that continue through with customs, but so I don't know where to put this.
Yeah,
It's a decent-sized ship.
Yeah. One thing I did with the Corsair is I made them a little bit too, like, war-based, but it's because I'm naming a lot of their ships after, like, Egyptian gods and stuff, so it's kind of, there's always, like, epic,
focused.
Yeah, there's always, like, epic, like, names to go into, so making, like, a cheap little empty gold runner is not what I had in mind with some of their ships. And they actually got their own, like, you know, quote-unquote, like, god ship in this post, actually. But anyway, maybe I'll talk about that one later,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Alright, I'll go to another one. Alright, the next curse one. You can tell I love the curse in this set, because I keep going back to them, but yeah, the Purgatory is next. This is the next curse ship in this post. It's another 4-master. It's 22 points, 5 cargo, L speed. The cannons are 2L, 3L, 3L, 2L. And then it has 2 abilities. One is the Unholy Light keyword, which basically means you can look at all treasure on ships and islands within L of the ship. And then, which only appeared on the Spectre and Delusion. And then it says this ship has the Fear keyword, except that it affects ships within L of it rather than just S. So it's like L Fear instead of regular Fear. So, and then flavor is one of the most menacing vessels ever seen. The Purgatory seems to dominate any area she sails in. Gold, resources, cargo, humans. They are simply an obstacle to her captain's goal. So pretty vague, but basically the ship sails around and it's almost like the Great Apostasy. It just causes chaos and like it's got like almost like a zone of control type ability set. You can look at all treasure around you, and then it scares enemies with fear within L, and then it's got L range cannons too. So you have a big L range to use all 3 abilities and the guns. So, but it is 22 points, so it's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
I would probably try to use it as like kind of like a grand hybrid, kind of almost like the Fall of Lucifer, because it does have cargo. So it's a pretty solid ship. Definitely better than the Spectre, so which isn't very good for the most part.
Yeah. I think Unholy Light as an ability may have worked better if the range was a little wider. I mean, I've never used either of those other ships that have it, but just within L range, in my head, that doesn't seem very large or very much of a range from the ship. Because if you're within like L of an island, odds are you're gonna probably find what you expect to find, or something like that. And if you're within L of a ship and you're not shooting at it or attacking it in the first place, I don't know. It's just been one of those abilities that has seemed odd to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what having the effective Fear have L ability, that range, as opposed to S. I think it would need to be tested a little bit, maybe. But 5 cargo, decent L range cannons. So, 22 does seem a little expensive to me.
Okay.
Considering the abilities on the ship.
Yeah. I just didn't want to make it too much more because Unholy Light and Fear aren't too useful, and then the Spectre is a point less but way worse of a ship, so I didn't want to make it too cheap.
And the Spectre is, bigger. It's a 5-masted ship.
Yeah, but the guns are way
then
worse.
Again, it falls short in, every other area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still worse. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I don't think... yeah?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, like I said in the post, too, I'm probably going to expand on this. I might actually expand on the flavor text, and I hope to make some kind of linked crew for it. I still haven't yet, but the Purgatory might see more, development as I go along here. So that'll be interesting to see if I expand on it. So, because all my customs are, I consider them, open to revision pretty much always, almost no matter what, for the most part. So, yeah. Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to scroll around and see what's what. Okay. We're going to go down to the other, see what's down here.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Blue Whale. Big ship.
Nice.
Big whale, whatever. All right, 18 points. This is a French ship. 5 masts, 6 cargo, L speed. Ooh, 4S, 5S, 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 4S. All right, and the ship treasure trading. which is once per turn. If this ship carries treasure and ends with an S of an enemy ship, you may randomly trade one treasure with that ship. All right, as well as enemy ships with an L of this ship get -1 to their cannon rolls against this ship. This ability cannot be copied or canceled. Huh, okay. Odd little clause. Flavor. Arguably the most jovial and friendly crew in the Southern Hemisphere, the Frenchmen aboard this ship enjoy laughing and trading far more than quarreling and shooting. They have a knack for winning would-be opponents over with their charm and amicable nature, which allows them to ferry gold and precious resources back to French ports without needing to use the ship's pathetic armament, which has not been maintained in adequate shape for more than a decade. All right, that's a fun little thing. So, yeah, this is a cargo ship. Average speed for 5-master, I suppose. An improved version of that cannon debuff.
Yeah.
As seen earlier, within L as opposed to S. And the last little bit, this ability cannot be copied or canceled. So it's permanently always on this ship and only part of this ship, at least with the L range.
Yeah, because I didn't want basically Davy Jones on the Delusion to have this, because it gets ugly in a hurry. Yeah, and that's one of the big problems with creating customs, because you make like an ability you're all excited about, but then when you think about copying it on a 10-master, sometimes it totally falls apart. So that's kind of why that clause is there. And the can't be canceled thing is basically based on the flavor text. So like the ship's crew is just so happy and like eager to trade that like you can't like cancel it to like shoot at it more effectively, because they're just so the crew is just so effective at like their mission of, you know, just trading, like free trade and whatnot. So it's basically just like a giant like cargo ship. So, but it's a fun concept. So
yeah, flavor wise, it's like a legal version of the sleigh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Good point. But at least not as OP.
Yeah.
Right. And it was kind of fun. It's kind of fun to make like a really big ship with like awful cannons, which is something you rarely see. At least not like rank 5, like almost across the board. So, yeah.
Well, there's a few cursed ones like that are WizKids released that have it. Like the Man Bridget comes to mind.
Yeah, that one's.
But that's a smaller ship. Marginally though, by only 1 mast. So.
All right. I'll do another one here. I'm gonna go back to the Jade Rebellion.
All right.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite. They're generally my favorite minor faction for the most part of the 4 small ones. I'm gonna go to the Grand Canal, which is one I find interesting. This is another Jade Rebellion 6-master. It's 21 points, 5 cargo, L speed. The cannons are 3S, 3S, 4L, 4L, 3S, 3S, and junk keyword, of course. And the special ability says, friendly ships that begin their move action within S of the ship get +S to their base move this turn. And then the flavor text says, with a name paying homage to the Grand Canal itself in mainland China, the crew of this ship are among the most helpful and amiable in the Jade fleet. So another friendly crewed ship here. This one is basically, it's named after the Grand Canal, which I didn't even know existed until like a week ago. So I named it after the Grand Canal in China. And the Grand Wall is named after the Great Wall of China, of course. But this one is basically, I don't know, it's kind of just a general purpose 6-master. It's quite expensive, but it would be great in a larger game with like a horde of Jade ships around it that get the movement bonus. And then it has good enough cargo and guns. Both of those are just good enough to use it as maybe a hybrid. So better in larger games, but the ability is kind of meant to reflect like the nature of like a canal, like letting ships move through areas they normally wouldn't. So the helpful ability is like a speed boost to kind of, I don't know, just kind of take flavor.
Or like a wayfinder kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, where's XYZ? Oh, it's over that way. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. The ability is based on like the Grand Canal, idea. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think you summed that up pretty well. 21 points on the expensive side, but as you said or mentioned, it's a pretty nice movement bonus. Because I think Wolf said this once in a post. It's relatively easier to make a ship more accurate but it's considerably harder to make a ship quicker.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So this is kind of like that. Oh, phooey, what is it?
It's like the cheerleader.
It reminds me of
like
it reminds me of that, but for movement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is similar. Yep.
All right, cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it would be good. I just realized something too. It would be great on the first turn, because if you put them at your home island,
all clustered around the home island.
Yeah, that would be great.
And also, these Six Masters, they're the largest non-10 ship type out there.
Yep.
So within S, you could get quite close.
Mm-hmm.
Or you've got a definitive range where area of effect for this ability. Yep. It could be handy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to scroll up here. Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a look at ship number 1 under the Jade Rebellion flag here. Mm-hmm. Grand Wall. Okay, obvious reference. 20 points, 6 masts, 6 cargo. Base speed at S. Cannons of 4S, 4S, 4L, 4L, 4S, 4S. All right, and junk. And 2 hits from the same shoot action are required to eliminate one of this ship's masts. All right. Or Corsaro ability. Flavor. Perhaps it was inevitable that a large junk be named after the Great Wall of China. The Jades have certainly honored her namesake, triple planking the ship's hull with extra timber. The hold is still large, but now the ship is one of the slowest in the South China Sea. All right, okay. So, you've got the same ability as their Corsaro at a mast larger, same speed and a point cheaper with more cargo. I don't know how I feel about this one.
Yeah.
I like the defense a lot.
Another flavor.
I'm not fond of the S speed, but you know, I suppose it could still be viable. Mm-hmm. Lots of cargo, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of room to put crew and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Cannons are pretty rather. Well, they're not 5s and 6s, but they're not 3s and 2s either. So,
yeah, it's mostly another like flavor-based custom. So a giant wall defense, but not a lot of offense. Or, you know, of course, it slows down because it's got a lot of wood on the ship. I kind of think it's maybe viable as like an expensive hybrid type thing. I mean, I think it's better. Than the Grand Wind, at least, which is the other 6 cargo S speed Jade Rebellion 6 Master.
With majority 4 cannons.
Yeah, and then it's I don't know. It's okay maybe as a hybrid. I don't think anybody would use it in a 40-point game, but I think it still has some potential for being like a really reliable cargo ship in a larger game. So, yeah.
And or being like a block ship.
Yeah, absolutely.
On a battlefield in a larger game. Mm-hmm. But for that, you would still need to be a little quicker, and S+S with like a helmsman, not counting any kind of extras this ship may or may not have.
Yeah, it's still pretty slow.
It's still on the slow slide, and still not very accurate.
Yep.
So bring some cheerleaders.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. You could combo it with the Grand Canal to make the speed a little bit faster if you wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it.
Yeah. It's like a merging of the Great Wall of China and the Grand Canal of China.
Yeah. And if you had a friendly navigator somewhere, you could use those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trade currents.
Yeah, not my favorite, but oh well. All right. I'll take a look at a named crew for the Cursed. I will do another non-cursed custom soon, but this one I just wanted to mention because people will recognize it. This one is called the Sister of Tortuga. It's a cursed named crew that costs 5 points, has 2 abilities, reroll, and the ship cannot be pinned, which is not a crew ability. It's a ship ability, so I'm a little hesitant to put it on a crew, but I don't know, I wanted to see how it works out, so hopefully I'll test it. Flavor says, the Hag of Tortuga's sister is no less ugly, but more powerful. She has recently been assisting the Moon Sorcerer, but wants her own ship. So the Moon Sorcerer is like a really powerful named crew I submitted like probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. One of my favorite named crew in the set. and also one of the main cursed crew of the set, like a signature type crew. So yeah, this crew is decent. They never got reroll on a crew, so it's really good for like one of the versions of Phantasma that has SAT, or maybe Davy Jones to get a 6, stuff like that. So, and then the ship cannot be pinned. It's kind of, I don't know.
Interesting.
I might have to ask Wolf how much that ability is supposed to cost. It's not too expensive, but I don't know, 2 points.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Because right now, the bulk of the point cost of the Sister of the Tortuga is in her reroll. Although for the cursed, not being the ability to not be pinned, that's quite handy for how they're boarding focused. So some of those ships that have the I call it crew wiping because you wipe out all the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, you refer to it as massacre. It's the same thing. That's handy for ships that have that ability and or other boarding focused abilities like gold capturing or Captain Nemo type ships, type abilities. So quite handy. 5 points. That's like what cancelers cost. That combination, I suppose. Yeah. Wolf, I think, should be consulted about how much that ability by itself would cost.
Yeah.
Because it's only ever been on ships before.
Yep.
And ships have all kinds of other interesting reasons why they're costed the way they are.
Yeah.
So, but I think 5 is a good spot to place this for now.
Yeah, good starting point. Yep. Cool.
All right. Moving on a little bit. Let's go.
Yeah, maybe like 4 or 5 more of mine, because I think there's 3 more I want to talk about, so if you don't get to them first anyway.
That's true. I'm going to go and look at Bastion, a Barbary Corsair ship, 12 points, 1 mast, 4 cargo, S+S, 2 L cannon, galley. Ramming cannot eliminate this ship's masts. This ship ignores the first hit she takes each turn as long as she has all of her masts. Flavor? The Bastion is the most well-defended small galley to date. Well, that certainly is true.
Yeah. Yeah, the flavor text is short, but it's basically...
to the point.
Yeah, Bastion is like part of a castle, so it's the flavor... They named it because it's like, I don't know, it's like a really sturdy ship. So it's named after like part of a castle that would like be, a stone wall or whatever. So
nice. Yeah, that ramming ability takes away the inherent weakness of one-masted ships, which is that it's easy to ram them into submission. And the ignoring the first hit, that also takes care of, gives it another layer of protection on top of that.
Yeah.
So the only way to deal with the Bastion here is to hit it with a ship that's 3 masts or bigger. And even in a 40-point game, that's quite the commitment of a gunship.
Yeah.
In a larger game, that's still a gunship commitment to deal with this, and or just bring a canceller to cancel one of the 2 abilities.
Yeah, you basically have to hit it twice, and you don't have the ramming excuse, so it is pretty good. It's really pricey, though. I mean, they do have a handful of 6-point ships with like 3 or more cargo that you could run 2 of these and probably be a better gold runner. So it's not an amazing choice for them, but it's kind of stacked, because other than the other than the 1 mast, everything else is a strength. The speed is solid, the cargo is great, the gun is fine. So it's kind of like a sturdy gold runner, but on the pricey side for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And this caught my eye because I've been thinking about Overwatch recently, and one of the characters there is named Bastion.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, ooh, what's this?
Yeah.
Nothing like the video game character as far as I know, but still, fun.
Yep. Okay, I'll do another one. All right, so I want to... Well, actually, no, I'll wait till that one. I'll hold off on that one for now. I'm going to go up to one I find pretty silly. All right, it's a cursed name crew. It's called Savior of the Antichrist. So, which is one of those like crazy epic names, but you'll see why I'm laughing in a second. It's cursed, 4 points. Ability is loyal cursed. And Doctor, which is basically if any of the ship's crew would be eliminated, turn them face down instead. So I value that pretty much the same as crew protect, so I put it at 4 points instead of 5, which WizKids had it at. And then flavor is this man claims to be the one to save the cursed from certain extinction at the hands of the powerful European imperial powers, but he is really a madman who has delusions of grandeur. Given his reasonable adequacy in repairing various forms of life, the cursed have accepted him into their ranks nonetheless. He still believes he will be the one to bring the grand plan to fruition. He is considered a joke and war criminal by those he opposes. So, and then I said,
your comment here, how's that for a letdown?
Yep. Yeah, I said, how's that for letdown? Despite the grandiose name, I didn't want all of the cursed name crew to be super serious demigods that are perfect. This guy went crazy and nobody really respects him, so... I was originally going to make this crew, like, one of the signature crew of the set, and I thought it would be funny if he was, like, a random European dude who, like, came to the cursed and thought he would be, like, the one to save them, and, like, it's just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
So,
the name, to me, was a bit, oxymoronic, because it's like, okay, you're going to save wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
But
he is
and
good
then
at,
he's
like...
got that ability, it's like, okay,
he can save people, but he's not going to make the curse win, like, huge games or anything. Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
That's a fun little thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna stay in the cursed here for a little while.
Mm-hmm. I'm
going to, let's see, is there anything up here? I'm gonna go talk about this crew, the Not Specialist.
Yeah.
Cursed, 6 points. Gold capture. If this ship wins a boarding party, she may capture the crew at the highest point cost instead of eliminating it. A captured crew becomes cargo worth its point cost in gold, but unloaded at your home island. All right, Cursed got one of these guys. I love this ability.
Yeah.
It's usually seen paired with a captain, as seen on Bonnie Peel and Arouge Barbarossa and Dragon Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But has also been seen paired with Explorer, as seen in Barstow. Here it is by itself. And yeah, I think 6 points, maybe a little bit of a discount on it. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's interesting.
First up is 8 points.
Yeah. The Pirates basically got it for 5 with Bonnie Peel, who has Captain as well, but then they got it for 10 with Blackbeard, for where it's 7. Same with Barstow.
Later.
Yeah. So Bonnie Peel is the only version where it's worth 5, so it's kind of... I guess it's usually 7, but... I don't know. It's tough to use.
It's fluctuated like that, like the boarding +1 to boarding rules.
Yeah, so I went in the middle basically. So I went right between 5 and 7. So.
Okay. Ooh, almost missed the flavor. A strong man who was recruited by the sister of Tortuga, the Not Specialist, is an expert at lassoing enemy officers and yanking them aboard. Oh, that's fun. I'm like imagining. I'm imagining this, but all I'm thinking of is like a guy with like a 10-gallon cowboy hat on the bow of a ship twirling a lasso going, come here!
Yeah, basically that's what it is. Yeah, pretty much. Man. Yeah, it's like a big dude who was like, probably like a European or American, but then
a Texan maybe.
Tortuga. I tried to like make connections between named crews without having them all linked to each other. So in this case, this is the Hag of Tortuga's sister, like, kind of used her power to kind of corrupt this guy to some extent. Now he works for the Cursed, and, like, he uses his lasso to yank people onto his ship, or they get ransomed off for gold for the Cursed, so, yeah. Kind of cool.
Ironically, he would pair well with the Sister of Tortuga.
Reroll.
Since she's got reroll and the ship cannot be pinned.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which means you don't have to get tricky and finicky and touch the ship but not ram it, or use S or other forms of boarding without ramming.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I didn't even think of that combo working. I didn't realize they worked that well together.
Yeah, nice. Well, combined they're 11 points.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be too much of a dissuasion to use them. Most cursed ships that are worth using for boarding focuses
are way more.
They're either a little bit or they're significantly above that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you still have room for, like, Captain Helmsman, Oarsman, or something. Yep. Alright. I'm going to go to a Barbary Corsair ship, the first one in this post, and I think the first one in the set, because it's kind of like their biggest ship, point-wise. This is kind of like, I kind of gave the Barbary Corsairs, like, one of those, like, god ships. It's, like, way over the top, like the Fall of Lucifer type stuff. This is a Barbary Corsair 4-master. It costs 26 points, 5 cargo, SS speed. The cannons are 2S, 2L, 3L, 3S, and it's got a bunch of abilities. Galley, AA, which is Admiral's action, which means if you roll a 6, you can give any ship in your fleet an extra action that turn. And then it's got the cheerleader ability. Friendly ships with an S of the ship get +1 of their cannon rolls, and crew protect, which is the ship's crew cannot be eliminated unless she sinks. And then flavor says, literally a god ship to the Corsairs aboard who have roots in ancient Egypt. This grand galley is the flagship of the second wave of Barbary Corsairs. They plan to continue where Arush Barbarossa left off, with the European nations across the Mediterranean as their first targets. So this one is pretty crazy. Like I say in the comment, it might be too powerful or not expensive enough, but I liked in the flavor how it's kind of like their flagship, and Osiris is one of the most prominent, Egyptian deities. And then I kind of made.
I'd argue that maybe Ra would be
absolutely.
important, but that's just in Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
No bearing whatsoever on the ship.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to make that a ship because it would be like even better. Yeah,
it's like Thea praise the sun.
Yeah, no, I would have to like up the ante if I do Ra next. So it's like a 30-point master. Anyway,
good grief.
So this one, and then the flavor text has
better have treasure ship.
Yeah, it kind of hints that like Arush Barbarossa has been probably disposed by the Europeans, which makes sense.
Or he just died.
The Corsairs didn't show up after Barbary Coast, so you could even assume in the timeline that happened. But and the ship is kind of representative of how the second wave of Barbary Corsairs that I talked about in the flavor text is more war focused, or not as focused on trade as the previous one. So that's why a lot of the Corsairs had pretty good cannons, or have pretty good cannons in my fantasy set here. The ability spread is pretty insane. It would basically be like a grand flagship hybrid. So it gives out Admiral's actions, which has never been on a ship before. And then at least Wid's Kids released. And it's got cheerleader too. So it's a great flagship that'll help your whole fleet throughout the game.
Yeah. So, I think the only, weakness of this ship, if you would be that it doesn't have rank 2 cannons across the board. But that's, picking.
I didn't want to do that for the Corsairs, because they don't have any ships that good. Yeah. So, this one's already more accurate than the Janissaries blood.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to be too extreme.
It's also a very good ship otherwise. The cheerleading ability, take that how you will, if it's handy or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the crew protection, that is handy.
Yeah.
Since the galley keyword allows you to ram ships and not be pinned.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite handy, especially for boarding-focused ventures with galleys and
whatnot.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. If you ever do make the named crew for this, I'm reading your comment in the post.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what kind of named crew you come up to link with this.
Yeah, that'd be tough. It's gotta be something
maybe something that completely clashes with the abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe make him a doctor.
Yeah, no, that'd be too much like Wiz Kids. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Enough people have already complained about, irrelevant links, and we actually were doing that, God Mason and I, because the Tejon from Mysterious Islands has a 9-point linked crew, so it doesn't work.
Oh, yeah. Benito de Soto.
Yeah.
It's I almost was okay, he's 9 points. The ship he links to is 8.
Yeah, I think 7.
Or something, so I was he can't fit.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you brought a point reducer, he wouldn't fit.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Reducer would take up point space. Oh,
yeah. Oh, well. All right.
Silliness.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, only a couple more, and then we can move on. So I got some other customs to reveal the signature stuff.
I'm going to take a look at, going down toward the bottom, Possessed Skull, a unique treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This ship gains the fear keyword as long as this treasure remains aboard. Interesting. Once per turn, before this ship is given an action, roll a d6. On a result of 1 or 2, the next player in the turn order may give this ship a move action. Ooh, ow. Ugh. Kind of a mixed bag here. Fear is take it or leave it. It's either good or bad. Clunky a little bit sometimes in the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
And then that next ability is a wee bit of a negative ability.
Yeah, it's like Maps of Hades, basically.
Yeah, I'm looking at your comment there. It's like, ooh, Maps of Hades.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Maps of Hades, but that one's purely negative, so this one at least you get fear, so it's not all bad. The flavor would be something like how it's like a possessed skull that the cursed have like put some spell on or some nonsense.
Or it's like, the skull of some former cursed crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, send me the skull's head.
Uh-huh. And then
send me the skull's head.
Yeah, so basically the skull is possessed, so it like if you're in possession of it, you'll scare away other ships because they don't want it. They're afraid of it, but then at the same time, the skull does have some power, so it can kind of, and the captain would be probably in possession of the possessed skull, so then they would the possessed skull, almost like the in a weird way, a tiny bit like the Palantir from Lord of the Rings. It kind of like grabs hold of the person, and then like it almost controls them. So this is kind of like, that explains like the...
Or like one of the 9 rings gifted to mortal men.
Yeah, and then that kind of explains the 1-2 result where it's like Maps of Hades, so then the ship is possessed by the skull itself. It takes over, so... Alright, I'll go to the next one in the post. I'll go to, the next one is the King's Heart. This one's English, so the English are only getting a couple pieces in the set. They have a massive representation in the historical set, Age of Sail.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, yeah, and it's only going to get bigger, so...
oh, boy.
They're going to have, like, hundreds of pieces someday. Anyway, go Royal Navy. But the King's Heart is a limited edition. The English aren't going to get any non-LEs in this set, I'm pretty sure. They're, like, the faction that's getting left out for the most part, along with the Vikings. But this one's 12 points. It's a three-masted schooner with 3 cargo, SL speed. All 3 guns are 3S, so pretty mediocre. But then it has SAT, same action twice, built in, just like the Born Leader keyword. And then flavor is the personal royal yacht of the King of England. The ship is the newest vessel sailing for the English, so it's a brand new ship, the King's Heart. The speed and the SAT keyword are the best attributes. It's kind of tough to know what to do with it, though. It's not, I don't know, I purposely made it like, I don't know, it's not really like a great warship, because it's like his like personal royal yacht, so it's not going to be like a line of battle ship, or like a great gold runner, so it's like a speedy...
Like a mid-sized striker ship.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so it has like good speed and SAT, but other than that, it's pretty average, so it's kind of a cool concept, though, I think.
I've heard and read about people who say, like, fast ship like this, call it like an interceptor type of ship.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, in a 20 point, good grief. So, like, in a 40-point game, you put a captain and a helmsman on this, and you've got same action twice, decent cannons, pretty good speed, all for 17 points.
Yeah.
Which is fast enough if you get that same action twice to catch enemy gold runners.
Yep.
Yeah. So maybe we might be thinking too large. Like in a real huge campaign, this is just like another ship on the line.
Yeah.
Or like
or a scout ship or something to like carry.
But like in a 40-point game, this is a pretty good ship here.
Exactly.
This could be like your primary option for a gunship in a 40-point game that uses the English, who have very decent gunships, and I'll say expensive treasure runners.
Yeah. The main advantage would be the SAT for the speed, because for 12 points you could get HMS Oxford, a 40-point game, but but if you get SAT,
but then you'd have to spend some more. On it to get, the same action, and the helmsman.
Yeah, so you lose out on firepower, but the speed has the potential for SLS times 2, which is very fast. So,
yeah.
All right. Yeah, probably I'll pick, I think I only have one more to look at, so if you want to pick one more too. And then we can move on after that.
I'll go back up and take a look at some of the cursed ones that we didn't talk about yet.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's interesting. Dead Keep. 15 points, 3 masts, 6 cargo, L speed, 2S, 3S, 3S. It's a hoist, that massacre ability for the crew. And crew on this ship take up 2 cargo spaces. And flavor, so desolate and malignant is the dead keep that even the curse cannot keep a strong presence on it. Excuse me. Nobody has ever met a single member of the crew and lived.
Yeah, it's basically designed as like, it's like a dead, almost like the Grand Tomb in a way. The flavor is like designed.
Like the opposite, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The crew aren't eliminated, they just take up extra space.
Yep.
So maybe it's a whole bunch of buttons or something running around on this somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I like the cruise ships that have the high cargo, especially on a hoist.
Yeah.
That's very nice. A little on the average or slow side of L. So I don't know if I would ever put crew on this, because the helmsman, even though you'd get the speed to L plus S, that helmsman would take up 2 cargo spaces, thus dropping your total cargo down to 4.
Yeah. That's one thing I would hesitate. It is definitely a big trade-off. Because if it's empty, you could argue that you're too slow, wasting the guns and the massacre ability, because you're probably not going to catch anything. But then if you had a helmsman, I would maybe run it with just a helmsman and nothing else. Maybe. You could, I don't know, if you do captain and helmsman, you're kind of wasting the hoist keyword. So it's not really a great ship, I don't think, which is part of the reason I put the cost pretty low. I mean, if it didn't have the negative ability, the cost would have to be, like, really high. So I think it's kind of fairly costed for the trade-off that it represents. So it's kind of an interesting conundrum, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, although I'm thinking about ways to make this go faster without putting crew on it. So navigators come to my mind most frequently.
Yeah.
So if you have one of them handy, you can place a trade current, and if you get over it, you get L plus S.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still for a gold runner or a gold gatherer.
Mm-hmm.
That's borderline average.
Yeah.
So you'd have to try to find a way to make it go even faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a tough. I mean, also running it empty, you run the risk of it being captured.
Yeah, true.
An oarsman, which normally wouldn't take up space, would all of a sudden take up 2 cargo spaces.
It's a rip-off.
So
yeah, I like how it's like forces you to like a tough like compromise or trade-off. So it would be definitely a tough decision when building your fleet if you wanted to use it. So, but I mean, it could still potentially be a pretty solid cursed gold runner, which they really need. So. All right, so I'm going to go to the last one we'll cover tonight. At least.
I'm also thinking about links for this.
Okay.
Like the handful of cursed crew that link to all cursed ships, like Davy Jones.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Fire and Steel version of Sammy the Skull.
Yeah.
Would they take up just 1 space?
I mean,
or would they still take up to 2 total?
They'd take up the 2, but then you'd add 1 from the link, so it'd be like 1 essentially. So, yeah.
All right, so there's some interesting options there.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. The last one for tonight from this, well, not from this set, because I got a few reveals coming up. But the Emperor's Thugs is a Jade Rebellion crew. 8 points. It has the sack ability, so you can sacrifice one of the ship's crew to give her an extra action, so really good ability. And then it basically has gold capture, so if it wins a boarding party, you can capture your crew with the highest point cost instead of eliminating it. Then a captured crew becomes cargo worth its point cost in gold when unloaded at your home island. And this crew must be the first eliminated from this ship. So that's the negative ability and why it's... Yeah, so normally it'd be like 9 or 10 points, but the negative ability is pretty bad. The flavor says, Zheng He's personal security force. These brutes are difficult to negotiate with and use accidents to explain missing prisoners or captives from foreign nations. Often operating under their own authority, even Jade officers are afraid to tell the Emperor just how far his goons have gone. However, their savage nature may be their undoing, as enemies specifically target them whenever possible. And then the comment I say, I wanted to make some kind of flavor connection to Zheng He, who is a historical figure I want to learn more about. These thugs are taking things farther than their Emperor would like. And then, yeah, second gold capture, probably worth 10 points combined. So yeah, the negative ability holds it back. Because if you get hit with combo elimination or crew killing, this one's gone 8 points right off the bat. But I mean, sack with gold capture is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So this would be amazing on like any of the 6-masted Jade ships, or the Bao.
Yeah, or putting it on the Baohuan.
Yeah.
So what would be interesting to me, though, that negative ability could really come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
Because if you manage to win a couple boarding parties with this crew, you've now got gold attached to these guys.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
And then if you lose a boarding party or you get that cargo elimination and with a hit, so they go away, and then whatever they captured goes with them, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So you lose double. Gold.
Yeah, that'd be nasty. Maybe it should be 7 points. Maybe it's still too expensive. I might post this with Wolf. I think he'd be interested to look at it. So
yeah,
I think I like the flavor connection to Zheng He because he didn't really have any other. I don't think he gets really talked about too much in the South China Sea set outside of his own cards. So I kind of like this idea that they're kind of like his thugs going around, but he's not really supervising them, so they're kind of like too brutal and kind of commit some crimes that they shouldn't be doing. And then that's why enemies specifically target them whenever possible, which explains how they get eliminated. Everybody's afraid of them, but when you do encounter them, everybody's trying to snipe them out with musket fire and whatnot. So yeah,
grape shots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. And then I got a couple other cool customs from this post. The Barbary Corsairs got a fort called Ancient Sanctuary, which is kind of cool. And then there's some other random ones. We covered a lot of the cool stuff, though. And then the Curse got a limited edition Sea Serpent, which is kind of a generic but pretty decent serpent. So, and then, like I say in the post, the Cursed are going to be the main faction in the set, and then the Jade Rebellion and the Corsairs feature pretty heavily, obviously, and then the Pirates, Americans, French, and Spanish all get like pretty small, representations or whatever, but they still get some decent stuff. So it's kind of like a big three at the top of like factions that didn't get a lot of love from Woods Kids in a way, and then the other factions getting less. So and then the English and the Vikings are left out, but that's fine based on the flavor of the set. So whatever.
This is kind of like the angle I took when I made Return of Davy Jones. I made all the cursed stuff first, and then I think combined originally there were like maybe 10 pieces in Return of Davy Jones that were not cursed.
Yeah.
And those 10 pieces had to span all the other nations.
Yeah.
But one of my brothers got like persistent about was like, hey, what about this? I've got ideas. And so I'm like, all right, fine, I'll expand the set.
Yeah.
So a lot of the
or else it'd be like cursed only, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it would also be a lot smaller though.
Yeah, it'd be tiny little set. Yeah. All right. So next I'm gonna do like a grand reveal of some of the signature game pieces from the set, and these are not in the post yet. I'm gonna post them pretty soon, but I wanted to do kind of a grand reveal in audio form. So basically, all right, so I'll start to explain it. So Xerecs and I were on Vassal recently, and I was talking about this set and how a lot of the Cursed Name crew have like crazy names, like Archangel Fiend and like Bones of the Antichrist, that ship that I posted early on, and I talked about how some of them are starting to sound too much like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, which is something I enjoyed as a kid, and then I came up with this random name, and now I've made him like the signature crew of the set, almost like a Davy Jones type signature crew, like Promotions Edge or Davy Jones Curse, obviously. All right, so I'll get into it now. This is the original name that I came up with on Vassal randomly. All right, so this is Zenthalos, Lord of the Apocalypse. So this is a cursed name crew, 16 points. The abilities, it has a bunch of them. It's loyal cursed, hostile to all non-cursed factions. So you have to have an all-cursed fleet when you use this guy because he hates everybody else. Once per turn, give any cursed ship in your fleet +1 to all of her cannon rolls. Once per turn, roll a d6. On a 5 or 6, you may give any cursed ship in play an extra action. This crew cannot be eliminated. It can only be removed from the game when this ship sinks. None of this crew's abilities can be copied or canceled in any way. And it has a link to the Hell's Brethren, which I'll cover soon, which I don't know if that name's going to stick, but we'll see. And then you can pronounce it any way, I don't really care. It's going to be Xenthalos, Zenthalos, Xenthalos, anything. So yeah, you can pronounce it however you want, because I butcher pronunciations all the time anyway, so whatever.
X is all over the place.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a fun name. I just came up with it randomly, and I just love it. It just sounds so like cool and like ungodly and random. And then the flavor text is, it's pretty long, so I'll post it soon, but a burly hooded figure appearing as a man to those lucky enough to meet him. Xenthalos is actually a former god who was stripped of the majority of his powers by God himself when he perpetrated a vicious betrayal of his fellow gods. He is now the ultimate ruler of the cursed and uses the considerable power he has left to guide them towards a master race of demons and fiends. His end goal is to unite with the legendary Davy Jones. If that happens, it will almost certainly mean the end of the human race. This is the revenge that Xenthalos has come for. By ending God's creation, man, he will be satisfied at last. Until then, his bloodlust and power to dominate knows no bounds. So this is like the grand crew of the set, like the signature crew, like I said. So he's ludicrously expensive, 16 points. So you have to have an all-curse fleet when you use him. You can give any curse ship in your fleet plus 1 to cannon rolls, 5 or 6, any curse ship in play an extra action. So you could control an enemy curse ship with that if you wanted to. So kind of like an enhanced version of Davy Jones at 6, but only for the cursed. And then this crew can't be eliminated, which is huge. It can only be removed from the game when the ship sinks. And so that's pretty nasty. And then before we move on, I'll just give my kind of outline for the Hell's Brethren. It's not done, and I don't have flavor text for it yet, but the Hell's Brethren is his linked ship. It's a cursed 10-master.
Oh, moly.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, this is like the craziest like combo I've made, pretty much customized.
I'm grinning.
Cursed 10-master. It's 50 points.
I'm not grinning anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it's impossible. Yeah, I might redo it. It's because it's so crazy. 8 cargo, L speed, and this is probably the biggest problem. All 10 guns are 2L, and then and then it has the junk keyboard, S board, so you can board an enemy ship with an S as part of a move action, and then massacre. So those are the 3 abilities: built-in junk, S board, and massacre. So kill all crew if you win a boarding party, and then it has link to Xenthalos. So combined,
you should bring that down to like in the 30s, I think, maybe.
Yeah,
if simply for the reason such that you can't stack it full of every single named cursed crew.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, just from right here.
Yeah.
If you put the Sister of Tortuga on that.
Oh yeah, reroll. Yeah.
It's the this ship cannot be pinned.
Yep.
So not being pinned with a 10-masted junk. Whoo. Yeah. You'd never lose a boarding party. You wouldn't have to worry about S-board or any of that stuff.
Yeah, so combine these two, the linked crew and the ship combined for 66 points. And that's before a captain or helmsman or anything. So it's obviously totally over the top, but it's kind of like my set is like Pirates of the Epic Seas is probably what it's going to be called. So it's kind of deliberately over the top, and this one is pretty extreme. So Xenthalos is like, and I have pictures that I found on the internet of what I kind of think he would sort of look like, which I'll post pretty soon. But yeah, it's kind of like this like god type crew, so it's pretty crazy.
Nice.
So he's kind of like the ultimate like overlord of the cursed. So Lord of the Apocalypse is his like.
And he doesn't have limit.
No, because like if I.
Oh, you want to use him with Jones?
Yeah, so you could combine. Yeah. So,
all right.
So it's pretty extreme, but oh well.
Yeah.
That's and then the Hell's Brethren.
Oh boy.
I do like the name Hell's Brethren. I mean, it's kind of maybe not a great name for a ship, but I really love the name, so I might keep it anyway. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then
ludicrously overpowered, but that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I try to make the cost like reflect that. So hopefully, I mean, if it was 71 points with the House Brethren with the Zenthelos aboard Captain Helmsman, for that many points, you could get 3 fully crewed 5 masters, at least one with to take it down. So I mean, I think as OP as it is, I think 50 points for a ship is totally absurd. So I think it might.
Oh
work.
yeah.
We'll see. Well, I don't know.
Because
we'll see, but
71 points. That's like you said. That's enough to get you 3 armed to the teeth gunships that are all 5s and or larger.
Yep.
And each one of them would have canceling, because why not?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking like 15 points for a good 5 master, and then Captain Helmsman. Well, that'd be 60, and then you could do 2 cancelers, or maybe skimp on 1 canceler to get the Endeavor for a pricey 5 master, or the Accorzato.
Oh yeah.
So I think, I don't know, it would require playtesting, but I think it might work.
Yeah.
And then Zenthelos isn't necessarily done. I might actually give him more abilities. But I think...
boy.
Yeah, because I feel like, I don't know, he basically just has Roberto Santana's ability, which is 6 points, and then he has that on a 5 or 6.
A whole bunch of hostilities.
Yeah, exactly. And then on a 5 or 6, you may give any first ship in play an extra action. That's probably 6, maybe. I mean, it's only cursed, so... that can't be eliminated. That's really impressive, though. So yeah, that's the other rough part, is that you have to sink. If he's on his linked ship, you have to sink like the best 10 master ever to kill him. So it's pretty extreme. And then I'll probably kind of preview the other ones quickly. The Demon King is another big curse named crew from the set. It's cursed. It's 10 points. A link to all cursed ships, which is nice. And then it has basic abilities that are easier to remember. Captain, World Hater, and Eternal. So it's pretty good crew for 10 points. I'll read the flavor. It says, half demon and half man. The Demon King is a surprisingly happy creature. He is the right-hand, quote-unquote, man of Zenthelos himself as his main lieutenant. His booming laugh can be heard on surrounding ships, but he is only happy because of his immense success so far in his genocidal endeavors. So this guy's like a crazy dude, or he's like half demon, half man. And then I've got a good picture of him with like a skull with like flaming eyes, which I kind of like, yeah. But he like laughs all the time.
Nice.
So, and yeah, it's a good
like Joker laughing, or just like deep baritone laughing.
Yeah, probably like a deeper, something like that. And he's another big like thing. So. But yeah, Captain World Hater Eternal is a really good ability spread for any gunships, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I valued, I don't know, Eternal, I think it's worth more than 2 points. I think 3 is fine. So that's where I valued it here. So, or even if Eternal was 2 and then Captain World Hater for 7, of course, the link to all curse ship is really good. So I think that could theoretically add a point to its cost to make it 10. So I think it works okay. And then, the last couple, just preview real quick. Acolytes of Zenthelos is one I came up with quite recently. It's going to have a link to Zenthelos, and they're kind of like just his like followers or whatever, like his minions. And then they tentatively have captain and shipwright abilities right now. And then I have one called Eris of the Apocalypse, which is a cursed female named crew. It's 5 points. And then it says, give the ship a move action, but do not move her. Instead, roll a d6. On a result of 4 to 6, move an enemy ship S in any direction. And then it says, so that's basically L moving, but S moving on a 4 to 6 instead of 5 or 6. So it's kind of like increasing the odds, but lowering the distance that you move the enemy ship. So, And then it says, the last part is, if Zenthelos is in your fleet and is removed from the game, this crew gains the following ability. Once at the beginning of each of your turns, roll a d6. On a result of 6, any cursed ship in your fleet may be given 2 actions that turn. So it's like Admiral's action, but only for the curse. So, but if you lose Zenthelos, you're probably gonna lose the game anyway. It seems like. So, I don't know. She should probably be more than 5 though. I should probably make her like 7 or 8. I'm thinking, but and then the flavor says the Dark Lord Zenthelos has produced a human offspring with a conniving young daughter. She is loyal to her father, but will be more than ready to take over the reins of evil if something happens to him. So that's why she's the heiress of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd use some of these crew?
Okay. Probably. Yeah. It's probably I'd probably do it. In a campaign, that's serious investment.
Yeah.
In a regular like ship-to-ship deathmatch, which is like the kind of death matches I play, I would probably definitely field them in. I'd probably use them a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, maybe not even on their own linked ships. Even though, it was the Hell's Brethren?
Yeah.
Is the 10? Yeah. That's in a ship-to-ship deathmatch like the way I do, that would be very hard not to use it.
Yeah.
Because 10 rank 2 guns, I mean, technically that's the Endeavor, but like if that ability was spread out.
Yeah, even better.
Like each individual cannon, yeah.
Yeah, because more durability, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, those, these are, these, what you just talked about, those are very, very extreme. And I like that.
Yeah.
I tried to do that with Fiends to the Blood Islands. Although my overarching theme for Fiends, in addition to like the extreme angle, was also it's like, all right, the concept of literal blood money.
Yeah.
Hence, the name Fiends to the Blood Islands. But I like the extremity.
Yeah, I usually don't, but like the set kind of gives me an excuse to go kind of crazy and
go hog wild.
Yeah, and most of the other curse stuff I think is okay. It is really pricey. Like the Fall of Lucifer is 27 points, so regardless of the ship, it's pretty crazy.
Maybe I didn't discount them like I did on like several of their pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like some of yours are still like really underpriced sometimes. Not all of them, but and maybe I went too far with Zintheos and Hell's Brethren, but of course I'm willing to change them, especially the ship. That doesn't even have flavor text yet, and that one I could just make the cannons worse, plain and simple. So we'll see. But it is kind of like the ship of the apocalypse. It's gonna like end the world or race of men. So it had to be pretty crazy good. And then that's pretty much it. I do have a ship called the Grand Keep, which is a 6-masted Jade Rebellion junk. We saw the Dead Keep. You went over that one.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing like a retro like posting on that. So I'm going to post the Dead Keep first because that's out. But it's the Grand Keep's flavor is going to be that it was basically the Dead Keep was basically a 6-masted Jade junk before the Cursed captured it and turned it into like a 3-masted Cursed hoist. So anyway,
interesting.
Yeah, so I kind of got a little flavor connection there, but yeah.
I've kind of done that with the Fiend with the Phobie bonus packs.
Nice.
Where I've had like okay, here's the ship like at X point in time, and what you saw in the regular set was the ship after things went down, if you will.
Yep.
I think so far the only bonus pack I've posted is the English one.
Yeah.
Where all the ships I think. Oh no, actually no, they didn't. The first 2 pieces in the English bonus pack, they're English there, but their regular release in Fiends, they're pirate pieces.
Yeah.
By the time they get there, so that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way
to.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect some of the different game pieces flavor-wise. So yeah. And then Grand Keep is kind of a cool name, kind of like the keep of a castle. Basically, is the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Reminds me of the one I made called Misfortune's Keep.
Oh yes, I remember that one. Yeah.
It's a junk. That's it.
Yeah.
It's got 6 mass. It goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Literally.
Yeah, that's pretty
There's
funny.
no other abilities.
Yeah, nice. That's pretty funny though. Cool. You could even do. I know you don't love the rank 1 cannons, but you could take a page out of my book and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What if you made
I repeated one of the 3 L's.
Yeah.
Or I repeated a rank 3 cannon, so it's like 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, or some nonsense like that.
Yeah, you could do something really dumb and do like a a countdown 10 master that has cannons to go like
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
But then make it like really expensive so you could actually stack like 4 or 5 cannon bonuses to get the 10s to hit or something. But you probably need.
Or just have like part of the ability text. When this ship is given a shoot action, you may roll a d10.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's actually one of the changes God Mason wants to make to the game.
Use a d10.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he likes how a d20 or less gives you more like of a range for the abilities to be used. So, which makes sense.
I mean, I've floated using like d10s and d12s, like for ships that have like 6 rank cannons on them, or just d8s.
Yeah.
Because then there's a chance that those will hit without putting like an absurd amount of cannon boosters on and or near them.
Yeah.
I may actually do that one of these days, like play pirates with like a d8 or d10.
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Or you could get like cheerleader ships. The bonus comes from separate ships, so you do multiples, but that'd be super expensive, of course. So
rather ineffective, especially if you wind up in a tight maneuvering space.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. So that pretty much does it for like what we were going to cover from my set. Pirates of the Epic Seas is the tentative name, and I'll be posting more, a little bit more. But the set's almost done. I mean, it's got over 100 pieces. I'm not even going to bother with generic crew, I don't think, because it's kind of just random. But the next thing is just a little random topic. Actually, it connects to the campaign games that we'll talk about. So we had a situation basically in Vassal Campaign Game 3. We've got 6 players on the Vassal module. Xerecs and I are playing, and I'm controlling the Americans. I'm at war with the Cursed, who Xerecs controls, and recently...
And we're getting re-killed.
Yeah.
Dead already. Or something like that.
Yeah, so there's a brutal war going on right now near the Cursed Home Island, but there was a situation where, and I posted this in the rules thread, and the post got long, as it always does in the rules thread for me. I always write more and ask more questions than I originally had. As I'm typing, I'm like, oh, what about this? And then, oh, like, what if this other thing happened? Like, all these contingencies. But the Mobilis was...
Try to be thorough.
Yeah, the Mobilis was... It's a submarine with canceling. It was underwater. It had a fire mast, and the other mast was out. So it was already eliminated. So I brought it to the surface. I rolled well on the fire mast and used a shipwright to repair on the surface because it can't repair submerged. But in the rules thread, I didn't understand if... I mean, I think I know the answer, but if you only have one fire mast on a ship and the other mast is gone, but it's not a fire mast or a mast that's standing, if you roll bad for the fire, I feel like it should spread to that empty slot. But I don't think it does. Wolf didn't respond yet, but I don't know. I don't know how that should be handled, but I feel like the fire should spread anyway. It just seems like it would to me, but I don't know.
I think the situation got a little complicated because we were talking about fire on a submarine while it was submerged.
Yeah.
I've played this where ships that have shipwrights on them that are like bigger than, say, 2 masts, like, say, a damaged capital ship or a damaged 4 or 5er. And they've got only fire masts, but it's only like because they got hit once, so one of their masts got replaced with a fire mast, all the others got shot off.
Yeah.
So they have the option to repair the mast.
Yeah, I like
so
that.
You can give the ship the action with the shipwright to repair the mast at sea. However, because you've given the ship an action, you've done something with it. That means you have to roll for the fire mast ability. And if you roll badly, say like whatever it takes to spread the fire, then the fire would jump and you would have 2 fire masts as opposed to 0.
Yeah.
And I've done this where you can do this up until you have literally only fire masts, or until you start rolling well enough to where you eliminate some, and or you have enough where no effect happens where you can get to where you can dock to just put them all out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's how I used to play it in old campaign games. Like, I'm thinking maybe even before Economy Edition. That makes sense, too, because, like, and that's what I find strange about the fire mast thing, because it says when the ship has only fire masts, which means you can have empty slots and still need the automatic scuttling, but that's kind of silly because, like you said, if there's 5 masts, available, and they're all empty, but you have 1 fire mast, it doesn't seem like it should just burn right away. It would take some time to burn to the water line or whatever. So, like in real life, I don't know. I mean,
well, it also depends. Like, if you want to get technical, if you've got a fiver that's got only 1 fire mast and all the others are eliminated somehow or other, you could say that the 1 fire that's burning is burning over the powder room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or the powder storage on the ship.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Huh.
But I typically, because the physical campaigns I've played, there's a limited number of shipwrights.
Yeah.
And generic crew available.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I've made little paper ones, I still sometimes run out, or I just don't think about it because I throw quantity over quality at foes occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I sometimes don't put shipwrights on the big capital ships.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I can't repair. There's no mast for the fire mast to go and replace.
Mm-hmm.
I can give it a move action kind of with an oarsman if I'm within range of like a friendly fort or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But odds are that ship's just gonna scuttle next turn. All right, too bad. Move on. Kind of.
Yeah, I got lucky with the Mobilis.
Yeah.
And I had
you
to.
Fooled my plan. I was hoping that the Mobilis would go down, but it was not.
Yeah, it was close. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I had to make like hundreds of paper crew for Command the Oceans because I was going to run out of generic crew chips, but then I just stopped using them because it was more convenient to use the other ones. But that was literally because, I think I explained in a post, there was not enough room in the 2 rooms I was using to put deck plates with generic crew chips, because the chips aren't that big, but they're still like squares.
Sizable, yeah.
Yeah, so if I had those on deck plates, I couldn't stack deck plates enough. Yeah, and you saw from the pictures, only like the name of the ship is visible. So I can do like the point and ship counts, but other than that, I had to use like little tiny crew chips. Most of them were cut for index cards to make little tiny dinky chips.
Okay, cool.
It worked well. So.
I've just used like straight up paper.
Yeah, I've used that
too. I
haven't
thought of using index cards, at least not for like paper crew chips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've used pieces of paper too, because I created like a typed document at college where I made that partially for new players, so then they could have like captain with 3 in parentheses, because they were not going to pull a captain from a pack usually. So, and then just to finish up the little quick discussion, do you think shipwrights should be able to repair fire masts directly?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It takes away part of what makes fire such a deadly weapon in the game.
Yeah. I think that's okay, because I explained in the rules post, because, I think shipwrights should be able to repair fire masts, although they shouldn't be able to make it go from a fire mast to a regular mast in one action. Like, you should take a repair action with the shipwright to eliminate the fire mast, and then another one to get the mast back up. But, yeah, so, like, fire is 2 points, and people think it's, like, too good, and then shipwrights are also 2 points, but usually people don't use them, and even when they do, the combat usually ends before you can use a shipwright, so they're usually not a very good choice. So I think it's a decent house rule to make shipwrights more viable and fire like slightly less like OP or overpowered, which I don't really think it is, but you can make a case that it is. So
the other way to make abilities with like the fire is to maybe just increase their cost. I mean, we did the opposite, I think, for a few things regarding the Vikings, and that's been like a house rule for other people who do campaigns. Is just like cut the cost of every single Viking ship in half, and I think round up if you have an odd number.
Yeah.
So a fire pot specialist is 2 points, maybe just double it to make it 4.
Yeah.
And then, but keep the rules as they are about how they spread and whatnot. Equipment, okay, was it exploding shot that was misprinted, or was it just regular fire shot?
Yeah, exploding shot is 3, not 1. Yep.
Okay, so fire shot, okay, you've got the negative ability tacked onto it with fire shot. If you roll the 1, you've set yourself on fire, and you lose the equipment.
Yeah,
so I think fire shot is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
but specialists, maybe you could double their point cost.
Yeah, or at least Firepot. I think Smokepot should be too, because it's not a weapon really. I think it's like a niche crew, but I think 3 is too much. If anything, maybe swap it with Firepot. Firepot could
there you go.
Smokepot too. Yeah, I think that makes sense too. I didn't think of that until now, but yeah.
That's another thing you could do with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You get to all kinds of like little minor house rules for a generic crew.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom. If you want to give like a preview to Fiends of the Blood Islands, because Kaz and God Mason and I are gonna start talking about that in another episode or two once we finish RODJ. So I'll be right back.
All right, I'll go bring back up the organized thread. Okay. Oh, this chest cold is not doing me any favors. Okay, so Fiends of the Blood Islands is my second custom set after Return of Davy Jones. Most of it is in the custom ships organized thread on miniature trading below the Return of Davy Jones stuff. I will eventually, once I have released everything that's actually to be released in Fiends, shorthanded to either Phobia or just Fiends, I will be putting all of it into a spreadsheet and uploading it to Board Game Geek once I have published every single piece. I've gone through all of the regular rarity release stuff, like the stuff that's rare, common, uncommon, etc., and so forth. I've put together a super rare pack for them, which contains more Jade Rebels. I've got limited edition pieces for it, much more in-depth than the ones that were for Return of Davy Jones, which were just kind of slapped on at the end. And I've got a few special edition ships. On top of all that, I am now doing bonus like convention packs, if you will, similar in idea to the convention pack from Mysterious Islands, which had the Locker, the Pyre, Edward Lowe, and I think the Gem of Hades in them. Mm-hmm. But these bonus packs, as I am calling them, are more story and flavor oriented. Each one has a piece that is either directly or indirectly related flavor-wise to a piece that I have already put forth, either from Fiends itself or from the previous Return of Davy Jones, or just even relating to WizKids pieces that were released. Yeah. On top of all that, each piece, and there's 5 pieces in each pack, each piece has its own independent story insert. Yeah. I've got the ships and crew for those more or less down pat. Mm-hmm. What's clogging things up right now is writing out the story inserts for them.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I skip out on flavor text sometimes, because I just want to make more customs without having to explain all of them. So,
yeah. All right. Let's take a look at the first ship I have posted for Fiends of the Blood Islands under the Spanish. Mm-hmm. All right. We have the Santísima Trinidad, 26 points, 5 masts, 3S, 4S, 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 3S. 3 cargo, base move of L. Alright, abilities are, this ship eliminates 2 masts with each hit. This ship's cannons cannot be eliminated. Mast still may be. If derelict, she cannot shoot. I have flavor text for this somewhere, but I'm not seeing it here in my post, so there it is. I went back and forth on this one a lot, because me and my brothers designed this. We were like, the guns, they're not very accurate, so we wouldn't use it. But I didn't really want to make it more expensive than the Dreadnought. It's got some extremely good abilities on it, because that 2 masts in 1 hit, even if the ship has only 1 actual mast left, all 5 cannons are still there, and each cannon has that ability. Mm-hmm. I think having only 3 cargo helps make this not too powerful, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give it S speed because I thought that would just plunge it way down into being almost unusable, even with the potent offensive abilities on it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's got the L.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still enough good options within the Spanish crew to where even just a generic captain, helmsman, and some kind of specialist with an oarsman to keep the ability going will make this a pretty potent ship.
Yeah,
Plus,
absolutely.
crew options and cargo boosting options are to be considered. Since outside of, I'm just realizing this, outside of the Americans, the Spanish got generic cargo masters in Return to Savage Shores.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you could stack one or two of them, not on the ship, obviously, because it would eat into the point cost. But you could stack one or two of those guys elsewhere in your fleet, and now that Trinidad has 5 cargo.
Yeah.
However, woe betide you if those cargo masters are ever eliminated or canceled, because that would have serious repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this one was inspired by the historical Trinidad, right? Just like mine from Age of Sail. Yeah. So basically, for anybody that doesn't know, the Santissima Trinidad was the only technical 4-decker ever in sailing ship history. So in the line of battle, 3-decked ships with 3 full gun decks, they were the most powerful ships on the seas. For example, HMS Victory carried 100 cannons, most of the time at least. And then the Spanish would build some 3-deckers with 112 guns. Eventually, the French built ones with 118, which is just monstrous. And then after Trafalgar, there weren't a lot of huge naval battles on that scale. But the British did build some 120-gun behemoths. But the Santissima Trinidad was a 4-decker with, an arguable number of cannons. The cannon count ranges from 130 to 140, which is totally insane and absurd. But yeah, it was crazy powerful, of course. But the Spanish crews on it weren't quite good enough to match the English. And yeah, your version reminds me of mine. I'll go over that one quick. Mine's probably more extreme, but it has the same ability of the ship's cannons cannot be eliminated unless she sinks. Because with 4 decks of guns, you're gonna be shooting for a while either way. So, but yeah, mine's a rare from Pirates of the Age of Sail. It's the same ship flavor wise, but 28 points, 5 masts, 7 cargo, because it's like the biggest sailing ship ever, essentially. Or at least warship. L movement, the guns are 2S, 1S, 2L, 1S, 2S, and ship's cannons cannot be eliminated unless she sinks, and then once per turn you may eliminate one of the ship's crew to give her an extra shoot action, so specifically shoot. So that kind of, both abilities kind of tie into the firepower in terms of the cannons, but for 28 points it's still a pretty crazy ship. I think I might knock the cargo down to 6, because no 5-master has 7 cargo, so it might be. But of course, the Santissima Trinidad, no other ship ever had 4 contiguous gun decks either. So I guess it could be a ship in its own class. So yeah, but I
approached it along the lines of, there's 4 gun decks, but the guns take up a lot of space. Therefore, you wouldn't have as much free cargo space.
Yeah.
And also for like the balance of the game, I didn't want to make it completely overpowering.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is totally what I did with some of the flagship, at least of my historical set. Not all most of the ships are OP, but anyway. But yeah, I love.
They're powerful all the same.
Yeah, I love the historical connections, of course. Obviously from my big historical custom set. But okay, so I guess the last topic we'll do. I was going to talk about how Vassal is awesome. If you didn't know, the Vassal module is a way of playing over an online server. You can play pirates on it. Somebody named BJ created the module back in like 2010 or 11, and kind of revived it. And now there's been a lot of games played on it. Vassal campaign games 1, 2, and 3 have all been played on the module. We've completed 2, and a third one is kind of winding down. We'll talk about that in a second, but I just feel like Vassal is still underutilized and kind of underrated by the community because we can play with anybody anywhere in the world online. You just have to figure out a time and a build total over, and then you can play with anybody. So played in Singapore, We started a game with somebody in Belgium. I mean, Xerecs is in California. I'm in New York, so that's already 3 hours, which is, not trivial. So
It's a heck of a time difference.
yeah, I know. We still figure it out. So it's pretty awesome tool. So I think anybody listening that likes to play should check out Vassal no matter what, really. So it's a really awesome tool.
Yeah.
And I think
The other thing that's great about it is you can enter the stats for the ships when you are setting the game up and everything. So that means that you can use pretty much any ship from any expansion of any rarity on the module. You can use ships that you don't have but are listed in the galley here on Mini Trading. You can use custom stuff, which is really cool, in my opinion. I will say that it's still a little bit of a work in progress. I mean, we just recently added 10 masters to Vassal, so we can have all those, power build 10 masters. And yeah, I am actually thinking about trying to edit the module myself to add sea creatures because I like the sea critters. But yeah, so it's good. It's a good thing to have. As Ben mentioned, you can play with anybody, anywhere. Just agree to build totals and what time. And what else is good about it? You don't actually have to clear off a table or a flat surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out all the ships. Worry about keeping track of mass damage. Or damage, because I know there are people who are collectors who still like to play, but don't like to take the masts out because they're worried about breaking the ships and still use sticky notes or whatever.
You don't
With
have to worry about breaking
ship,
the
you can
ship.
just press Control 1, and ooh, look, there goes mast number 1. Problem solved. Taken care of.
Yeah, there's no chance of breaking anything, which is great. So you don't have to worry about that.
Well, unless you rage quit and break your keyboard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But, or your screen or something. Yeah. But yeah, and then I know I like the custom aspect and how you can use anything, even if it's not in your collection. Like I don't know if I'm gonna pay, $100 for the Rise of the Fiends limited editions anytime soon, but I can use any version of HMS Apollo that I want on the module, which is great. And it's very easy and convenient to test out custom ships, whereas in real life you'd either have to proxy, which in my opinion is pretty confusing because you see the ship and then you're like, oh wait, no, that's something else. Or you have to make the ship physically, which I haven't really done. Xerecs is great at that, but
I've done that for I think 98% of Return of Davy Jones.
Yeah.
There's I think 5 things, 5 individual ships that need to be made. Heck, I made a custom 10 master.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. But it's time consuming, so the module is a great way to test out customs, without having to do all that if you didn't want to. And I'm not very...
Hunting for the duplicates.
Yeah. I'm not
keeping an eye for massive eBay lots that hopefully sell cheap.
Yeah. I'm not very handy and crafty, so I usually don't create my own customs physically. And then you also don't have to search for a crew chip in a bag. Where's Will Turner? You just grab the chip from the module. So and future edits to the module will happen. I'm thinking about one for a project we're working on, along with new ship types, which would be great too. So, and of course I edited it for the world game for territories, and the artillery units and the risk pieces have come in quite handy for economy edition actually. So that's been nice. Oh, and then that's a good segue. So we're kind of getting into the late stages of Vassal Campaign Game 3. I control the Americans, and they've done well. They have been wicked lucky with the resources. I have to give credit to luck for the game to some extent.
Luck of the die.
Yeah, that has been a big player in the game. But I've still done really well strategy-wise and combat-wise too. And I almost brought it up already, but then Vixen, as the French, spent all his gold. So I didn't want to bring it up because it would be weird timing. The change I made in Command the Oceans is that at the beginning of every round of turns, you roll a die. Oh, and anybody that is not familiar, in Economy Edition rules, you basically roll a d6, and that determines resource value. So instead of gold, there's resources, and then based on the die rolls, they're worth like a certain amount for a certain number of turns. So you could have lumber be worth 6 gold for 6 turns, and then if the resource changes, you could have spices be worth 6 gold instead. But in Vassal Campaign Game 3, it's been kind of a weird sequence of die rolls where textiles and lumber have been very valuable for a very long time, and those are the 2 best resources that the Cursed and Americans have, which is the biggest reason they've got the biggest fleets for the most part, at least. So I did a change in Command of the Oceans, which made it a little more interesting with you roll a d6 at the beginning of each round of turns, and then if you get a 1, you roll the die again, and then if you don't get a 1, nothing happens. But then if you roll a 1, the resources either change for that turn, or if you roll snake eyes, like 2 1s in a row, you do a totally new roll and erase the current rolls for duration and value. So I think it's kind of an interesting way to change it up. Maybe we should have done that in CG3, but we could at least do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you and I probably could have gotten a hang of it pretty quickly. You had been doing it with Command of the Oceans, but all the other players, it was like their first ever campaign, I think. I'm not sure about Pirate AJ14.
I don't know.
Didn't he or she post some pictures of a battle report they did for an economy style game?
Yeah, they started one but couldn't finish it, which is understandable. So yeah. I don't know if they finished another one a while ago that didn't have pictures, but can't remember. But yeah, it's their first campaign game, and not only that, but they're jumping right into it with Economy Edition rather than just a regular community game with gold. So
yeah,
so and we pretty much agreed to use the Economy Edition rules to a T for the most part from the start, with almost no house rules. So to implement, a really big resource rule like midway through the game would be, interesting. I don't know if it would have gone over well, but yeah. But yeah, so the Americans, they declared war on the French and Cursed, and now they're fighting the French near their home island. So I've had to mount to defense of the American home island, but it's gone pretty well so far. The French are basically throwing their remaining ships at the Americans, and then the Americans are fighting on 2 fronts because they also have a relatively large squadron or battle fleet up in the frozen north, where they've backed the Cursed up against their home island and have been gradually wearing away at them. But as we saw in Vassal Campaign Game 1, it's wicked difficult, time-consuming, and a big stress on a fleet to eliminate a faction based at their home island, because that's where all the resources are. That's where they launch from, so they can get new stuff like at the battlefield. They can go home to repair really quickly, and if they leave ships out, they can't be shot at. So then you have to basically get like a ton of ships right there just to ram and like nothing else, and just hope you don't get ones to get pinned. So it's really a drag to eliminate a faction at their home island. I remember
it's tough.
Yeah, the Spanish
got like the best defense essentially, which is that home island cannot be shot at.
Exactly.
That is like the best defense in the entire game. You can still be rammed, but the other guy, the ramming ship could be pinned, and that's bad because they can't shoot their way out of it.
Yep, exactly. And then then the ship stays docked and just shoots the other one derelict. So I know the Spanish, they basically eliminated the French almost in CG1, but then they had to keep like half a dozen or more ships there for like turns on end. And it didn't help that the Spanish that were dealing with the T-Pint, which is eternal, and then the Bonaparte, which can be shot at by ships with an S, so it was like even more extreme.
So, on top of that, Lenoir was on the Tepin.
Yeah, exactly.
Or T-Pint, whichever. So you got in range to shoot it, and Lenoir would cancel your captain, and then you'd come in again to shoot it some more. And since their cancelers were elsewhere, I think dealing with the pirates at that point, and or the Americans and Cursed, it would just pop right back up at the home island.
Yep. Yeah. So like
the oarsmen on board prevented it from being captured.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have to sink it, but then it would just start repairing again. So the Spanish basically had to divert like more than 6 ships to deal with like 2 pesky French ships. So it took a long time. The French were still the first faction eliminated, but they did really well fighting at their home island. And it really taught me even more so. I mean, I already knew that to some extent from my campaign games, but that was probably the most extreme I've seen along with eliminating the pirates in that game as well.
The mobilists in that particular campaign.
Yeah,
and the pirates performed admirably, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and then
kept them alive long enough to potentially stage a late game comeback with gold capturing people.
Yeah.
But
was it the Grand River or like the Grand Temple? I can't remember which one was left.
It was the Grand River, your first Jade Custom 6 Master.
Yeah.
With a S+S base move, across the board rank 3 cannons, 5 cargo, and the ability of the Darkhawk 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On board, however, I think the Grand River was mostly empty.
Mm-hmm.
But what it was the pirates at the end launched the DJC Harbinger with Blackbeard aboard it.
Yeah.
So as a way to, we couldn't get coins, so we'll go and get your crew and turn them into gold to launch ships with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That got put down pretty quickly, even though before they got completely destroyed, I think they managed to capture 1, if not 2, tribal chieftains that were hanging around the pirate home island on Spanish ships, which would have been 18 gold if the Harbinger had gotten them home.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah. Yeah, the Spanish had to, like, overrun their home island and try to, like, block their trade routes and stuff, so, yeah. I still think, at least for games I've played, you can talk about your physical campaigns, but for games I've played, the Spanish in that game are still the most dominant, like, single faction in a single game. I think the Americans are, like, kind of contesting that in CG3, but the competition was fiercer in CG1, just because the Spanish weren't, I feel like the Spanish weren't really, I feel like they were the favorite, but not the clear winner for, like, almost the whole game. Because even at the end, they had, like, a huge contest from the English who put forth, like, a giant battle fleet. So, the Americans,
I remember that.
Yeah, the Americans have had a point lead since they beat the French at the Gateway Island, and they haven't come close to relinquishing it, so they're more of a clear winner. I hope so. But they're more of a clear winner than the Spanish were. But the Spanish, they just overcame everything to win. It's just such a dominant, like, excessive game. So, and I know they had every declaration of war in that game too, which is a lot. So.
Yeah, with them as the offender.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Going on the offense.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess you could say the American performance right now is making up for their dismal showing in CG1.
Yeah, pitiful performance in CG1, now CG3 are making up for it. Yeah. And the Spanish, I just realized Pirate AJ14, the way he played the Spanish aggressively in CG3 is almost like a continuation of CG1, but without the success, kind of. He did well at first, and he was, like, really aggressive, but then...
the resource rolls.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, the first 12 turns of the game, all the islands on the western side of the ocean, on the western side of the Great Barrier, they were all medals, and medals were worth 5 or 6 gold.
Yep, absolutely.
So the French, the Spanish, not so much the English, got lots of valuable stuff right at the beginning, which gave them spending power to put forth things, whatever. Excuse me. And I recall that at one point the Spanish, they had the San Cristobal and I think the El Cruzado, the better one.
Yeah.
And they got knocked out of the game pretty much as at the Gateway Island with an American attack and the French forming up a battle fleet to come and avenge or continue the war that happened with them earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, basically the Spanish, I think it was La Resolución sank the Bon Chance, and then the French...
Yeah, the first sink of the game.
Yeah, the French built up for a while with good launches, and then they went off for retaliation.
Sailed north, yeah.
Yeah, they got revenge on the Spanish, and then...
But then when the resources changed to favor those of us on the eastern side of the ocean.
Yeah.
So the Americans, the Cursed, and
the pirates.
Not the pirates, oddly.
Yeah, not quite as much.
Because they had like something that was valuable for a western side of the ocean resource.
Yeah.
So that forced them to go north to get it from the islands that had it.
Yeah.
And to go around the American fleet, which rapidly grew.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
canoes.
When the French knocked out the Spanish, well, they didn't eliminate them right away. I had to take them out at the later on, but because they had a few stragglers in the west. But yeah, when the French,
a military port.
Yeah, when the French, when they took out most of the Spanish fleet, but that left them somewhat vulnerable to an American attack, which I had been kind of planning, but I wasn't totally certain on it. But then I started looking at the ranges, and then I realized it was definitely the right thing to do, so I had to strike then. So, and I'll talk about this more once the game is over. But I was originally going to be more laid back, but especially with 4 new campaign game players. But then I heard AJ14 started aggressive out of the gate, and then I was
he almost single-handedly eliminated the English.
Yeah,
and they still haven't recovered from that. They've got 1 ship.
I know they still have the Aberdeen Baron, but I was afraid the Spanish were going to build a military port on the Gateway Island and use the good resource rolls to go east and take out the Americans. That's why I went aggressive earlier than I was planning, which I'll talk about once the game ends. But yeah, that was kind of an interesting way, because Pirate J14 his Spanish I
think took us all by surprise a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was a domino effect, which I talked about in one of the reports, because the Spanish and the French were the wealthiest early on, but the Spanish sank 1 French ship, which probably wasn't the best political move.
Yeah, it triggered that whole conflict that eventually led to
the French
probably going to be the elimination of both factions.
Yeah, the French got revenge and took out the Spanish, but the Spanish were taking out the English. So it's kind of like the Spanish took out the English, and then to follow the domino chain, the French took out the Spanish, and then the Americans took out the French. So it's
well, they haven't done that quite yet. There's still that massive squad up
there
by your home island.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying,
whirlpool.
I know. I'm saying, when they took control of the game, the Americans hit the French hard near the Gateway Island, and then from there they've been taking off. So, and then the Curse and the Pirates are the wild cards that have been more passive.
Yeah, I've been passive. I think too much. Because I didn't want to insta-kill any of the new people.
Yeah.
I was and still am very wary of the Americans.
Yeah.
So I think it was Jones got a 6 and made New Orleans sink a captured French 5-master.
Yeah, it was the Hoya del Sol and the Soldeal Royal, maybe? I don't know. Or one of those.
It was one of the 2.
Yeah, I think it was the Hoya, because I remember that ship being gone. And then I still had the Superb, but and then that triggered. So Davy Jones.
That triggered the raid where you captured Jones.
Yeah, basically I had for anybody listening.
And, that was really it.
Yeah, it was a really risky move where I had the Bonhomme Richard and the Grampus, both with tribal chieftains and Captain Helmsman. They were basically the chieftain ships, and they were meant to be defensive gunships, but I had them just barely within range of the Slipknot, which is a custom ship, the Cursed custom that Xerecs made, where Davy Jones was where he was on board. And so then I did a sudden raid with just those 2, but I did it because the Slipknot I didn't see her being well defended. So I was like, you know what, maybe I can get Davy Jones right here. And it managed to pay off, but I lost the Grampus, which worked out okay. I was willing to lose at least one, if not both of those ships, if I could. If that meant that Davy Jones would not be rolling more 6s, because with all the 10 masters in my fleet, if they fired at each other with a 6, that'd be really bad. Because I'd be losing tens of points based on a 1-6 roll or something like that, which happened in CG2, which is one of the reasons I wanted to take out the Pirates, because of Emperor Blackheart in CG2. That was another game, so.
Well, you could say that you've still lost tens of points because of the most recent action there with the L movers moving the Balkan onto a reef.
Yeah, that one I was
which only had 2 masts left.
Yeah, that one I was totally willing to do, because the Fortaleza, I don't know, the way I used her in CG2, I kind of see her as a kind of an inferior 10 master that's more disposable. And then I had a better crew set up in this game. I had Count Gustav with Thane Heartless for extra action reroll, along with the regular, crew. But I still thought of her as not as important as the Bauchuan or the Zanfu, because the Bauchuan is 60 points. I had her fully crewed. And then the Zanfu has Nemo with Sack, which is really devastating on a 10 master. So basically, the Fortaleza was the one I could afford to lose, and I I wanted to take out. I wanted to, I just kind of wanted to start things going again because I was planning to attack anyway. So then I decided to just take a risk and use the bow chasers across the reefs, which I think is kind of a fun concept. But then I got dragged. Yeah, basically, Xerecs' curses have used the L movers to really good effect in CG3 because the Fortaleza was dragged onto a reef and then sunk, and then the Bautron was recently wrecked. But now they've launched this Shuijian, so...
So I suppose if you got like one of your custom Jades or just a Jade ship that was expensive enough to begin with from somewhere, you could probably pull the crew off the Baohuan or Baoshuan. You wouldn't be able to use Zhenghe or Zhenghe, but all the others should still be viable if you can get them a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about that. I don't know if I should divulge that, but I guess it doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, the sea, what's it called? Not Tiger. Tiger's Breath. That's why I'm thinking of Tiger. Tiger's Breath is headed there. She's got like a medical barge type crew setup with shipwrights, but yeah, I might still try to do that. The other random thing is the Bautron is really loaded because she has some like resources too from the Sea Monkey.
Yeah.
So.
Reminds me of when the Baoshuan wrecked in my first Century of Empire game.
Exactly.
And it was because... Actually, no, it wasn't because of an L mover. It was because someone used Lost and put a reef under it.
Oh, that's brutal.
And then, in that particular game, I was trying to upgrade islands with, like, colonies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I had all the gold to, like, slowly upgrade, like, the thing, like, okay, one turn, level 1, next turn, level 2, next turn, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. I had gotten to, like, level 3, and it was still docked at the island, and then someone put a reef under it, and it just became... I got really mad.
Yeah, it was a disaster. Yep,
I think in the battle report I did for that, I used bold in capitals, and I used the word livid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I understand that. Yeah, that's one thing I've done well so far in the campaign games. So I think you have better like sportsmanship than me because I get like really annoyed. but one thing, what was I gonna say? Oh, about like I got the 10 Master Baochuan was wrecked recently in CG3. The Americans, I've kind of told myself since the beginning of this war with the curse that I was going to lose a lot since you're using a lot of powerful customs and you had like 4 cancelers in play and stuff like that. So I kind of went into it realizing like, I'm going to go crazy with this attack when it first started, but I'm going to lose like a lot of stuff. So that's just kind of the nature of war in the campaign games. And the Spanish, I mean, when the Spanish finished up CG1, I don't know if their fleet had more than like 200 or 300 points in it. They were spent from their conflict with the English. Yeah. I think the Americans will have a lot more in CG3, but it's more lopsided than that. And that's part of the reason I think CG1 is the best vassal CG yet. Because it had 6 factions and they all, other than the Americans, they all had like their moments to shine and like they all had like big fleets at some point or another.
Yeah, there's still like a big what if. I keep saying it's like, okay, at one point the pirates had a fleet poised to strike the Spanish home island.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, they were like within 3S.
Yep.
Like the lead gunship was in 3S. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them, I got messed up on rulings and whatnot because I had the Devil's Maw in play, but like 3 or 4 of the leading gunships for that attack were SAC based for extra actions. Mm-hmm. And so I got mixed up. I thought that because the Devil's Maw was in play, it would save the crew.
Yeah.
And because for SAC to work, it has to be completely eliminated, I thought for like a turn or two that because the Devil's Maw was there, I wouldn't be able to get my SAC actions. Yeah. So I turned the ships around to put like, same action twice, extra action, crew on them and refit the gunships. But by the time I turned them all around to come back home, like the Spanish launched their home defense fleet.
Yep. Yeah, I was up to it. I know. I kind of saw that threat growing, but the reason I didn't launch sooner was because I was already devoting a lot of, like, not resources, like economy, but like I was devoting a lot of ships and crew, like points, against the French and Americans, and the pirate gunships were kind of spread out, so I didn't know if the attack was going to be imminent or not. And then, but then, yeah, once I launched that home defense fleet, it was it would be tough to do a raid. So, and then the Spanish just went west anyway to attack. So, yeah. But CG1 had so much like parity, and it had it just had so many great moments. Like the Spanish did dominate, but it was in more of a, I don't know, it was a really fun game. Still, I don't know if it's my favorite campaign game. I know Command the Ocean is more epic for the most part, and obviously way more aesthetic. I understand that, but for gameplay purely, I think CG1 is still possibly my favorite. Partly because CTO, Command the Ocean's my physical campaign game from last fall. That had too many cons for me because it's just like on the floor all the time. It's like painful.
Yeah,
that's another thing about Vassal is you can just sit in your chair and look at your screen. It's so easy compared to like a physical game where you have to like get up and move around and like the ships get knocked over and like it's harder to undo, I guess, in like a regular game.
Yeah.
But in Vassal you have an undo button to just
literally you have Control Z or the undo function in the upper corner.
Yep.
I don't know if I mentioned this anywhere, but like just this past summer with my annual COEC game, I like hurt my back bending over like the table. So like, okay, this ship goes L, then it goes S. So I would like move it, and then I'd like stand back up to stretch my back out and just like stand there for a second, like going like, oh, my back.
Yeah.
Like I gave myself back spasms or something. It was like, ugh.
Yeah, I think I did see that. I think I said something about it. Yeah, and I've had similar. For me, it's mostly just like the crouch like position where I'm not like my back and my legs aren't like straight, like the opposite of like standing up. So it's like really hunched over and like it just gets annoying after a while. So and then
I haven't had that issue since the 2015 Century Empires game, which
that's a good thing.
I don't know if that still holds is that considered for a record for the largest physical map? I
believe so. Yeah, I haven't broken it. I don't think so.
And it was especially Command the Oceans maybe, but that was spread across 3 different oceans.
I don't think that was even bigger. I don't think, but we'd have to look at it again. So yeah, I think CTO was around 42 square feet, but I'd have to look at it again. So yeah. But yeah, you've been smart.
My Century of Empires, one of the sides of that ocean, I think was somewhere around 20 feet on one side, and then or 12 feet or something like that. I don't know. It was in like this room in our house that's like a converted garage.
Yeah.
But it was like an irregular map because it wrapped around furniture and stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
but
my old campaign games from before I started taking pictures, a couple of them, especially the 2011 game, they had some weird maps because I just used the room or the floor of my room, so it wasn't like confined to a rectangle or square, so it's kind of random. But anyway.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna do like a quick research and see if I can find kind of what those dimensions were. I think it's in the last page of the battle report somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I forgot what else I was gonna say. But yeah, playing campaign games, I'm gonna shift to mostly Vassal because it is a physical strain to play physical ones, and the time and space constraints are really pretty dramatic to the point where they're like crippling, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I found those dimensions. My words in the report are exact measurements are a little difficult to figure, but the map was an imperfect rectangular shape that at its longest was slightly more than 16 feet, and at its widest was slightly more than 8 feet. These are rough measurements made by me well after the game has ended and only measuring 2 sides, and not taking into account how the map wrapped around furniture and other obstacles. So, assuming the other sides were roughly the same, I'll do that math later.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing math on air in my head.
Yeah, it was, I'm getting my calculator up. It says 8 times 16 is 128 with, just for pure, rectangle length. So, yeah.
Yeah. That was a fun one. That was like the first big game
I love that
I recorded.
Yeah, exactly. I love that battle report. It's still one of my favorites. I think that one and the Winter Economy Edition game are my 2 favorites in terms of most memorable for you.
Oh, that Winter Economy game, that one, that's gone down in infamy.
Yeah, of course.
All right, because I went back and asked my brothers about that. Okay, who do you guys think won? I think I declared the Spanish the winner of that game.
Yeah.
However, one of my brothers said that not only was there gold on a ship that he didn't give a move action to put it home, but when he counted the gold for the French, there was gold under their HI that he forgot about. And he says he put the gold under his HI so that it could not be home island robbed.
Wow, that's cheating, though.
Yeah, I know, but he looked at me and said, I was like, I was younger.
Yeah.
I wasn't like a good sport, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the winner of that game, at this point, I could just do a coin flip between Spain or France.
Yeah.
It wasn't the English, which was me. I got eliminated by everybody at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, like, literally everyone was, okay, except the Americans, but all the same, I didn't win that one. The Americans, well, actually, no, wait, I'm thinking about the one, because that was in the regular battle reports thread. Somewheres in there. I think somehow, actually, no, I don't think I did get last.
Yeah.
If I remember
I
what I did.
Yeah, I think you were second to last, I think. Yeah, that sounds familiar to me.
I got third, somehow.
Yeah.
Well, it's because of the victory conditions.
Yeah,
The victory conditions, I think, were first place went to most gold, second place went to most ships, third place went to most gold, discounting the first two, and, fourth was whoever was left.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where we differ, too, like, philosophically in terms of the campaigns. Because I like to play either Last Fleet Afloat, which like CG1 and CG3, or if not, if you can't finish the game, I like to do Points in Play, which is by far my favorite, artificial win condition, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm checking right now, but I can consider the French the winners of that game because you said they had, like, if he had given a move action to that ship, I don't think it was the Fitu, but whatever it was.
It was a hoist. It was the Fitu.
Okay, exactly. So if he had,
if I remember correctly, it was the Fitu.
Yeah, so if he had given that another move action, they would have beaten the Spanish by a few gold or whatever. So, but the other
the Spanish technically won that game by 10 gold.
Yeah. It's
technically they won it by 10 gold, and the Fitu had like 30 gold on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the other thing was that the Spanish didn't get involved in combat at all. So the French would have won, even though they were at war, all over the place.
Yeah. With the Americans and the English.
Yeah, I really don't like giving such a close win to the super passive faction. Because if the Spanish were at war at all, they probably would have had interference that would have made them lose by a lot more than 20 gold or whatever. So I still consider that a French victory, basically, and that's how I've recorded it in the Huge Game Legacy. But yeah, it's definitely an infamous ending.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Kind of like
it's certainly memorable.
Yeah, like the first 500-point game I played, which was a 500-point build total rather than a campaign game with new launches in the game, but at the end of that game, the Spanish had the Concepcion, two of them actually, because I had duplicates allowed. That's a good, well, not great, but a decent Spanish galleon type ship with +2 gold ability. But then the Cursed used Davy Jones on the Divine Dragon to sink both of them, and then the Pirates won as a result. So it was a pretty funny ending, but. So then I kind of left that open-ended as to whether or not the Pirates kind of recruited the Curse at the end, but it was really just Davy Jones wanting to cause as much chaos as possible. So he would want to go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
So the Pirates, the Curse kind of enabled the Pirates to beat the Spanish, which is kind of another infamous ending. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the end of that Winter Economy game. Mm-hmm. The Spanish had 2,573 gold.
That's crazy.
And then the French had 9 less.
Yeah.
Which with 2,564. As the English got third place with 551, and the Americans took last. These victory conditions for this were flip-flopped, actually, from the Century of Empires game, which was first place went to most ships afloat, second to most gold.
Yeah, I like that better. It
So
incentivizes fleet building more, because with the
yeah,
gold, you can just like run gold the whole time and not bother launching. But like, I mean, if I had 2,500 gold, I would launch a huge battle fleet and just win that way. You know, like I would just win by elimination, because that's how. But that's how I play, because I never like to use most gold as the win condition for campaign games. So that's kind of where we differ on that. But I do, most ships in play is still a solid metric, though, if you can't go to a last fleet afloat. So
yeah. Although this particular game, I think the tables we used for it combined were like 10 feet or something, so it was a small ocean.
Yeah.
And the French had 60 ships in that game.
Yeah.
So they had completely dominated. And the Spanish actually did launch gunships.
Yeah.
But they used them against me. Also, that was the campaign where we introduced our friend.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was a Spanish, but he was passive.
Yeah, he played the Spanish, and he wasn't so much passive, so much as the three of us decided, okay, it's his first game kind of ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he'd played, like, death matches against us, but nothing to do with gold, let alone resources.
Yeah.
So the three of us kind of decided to, like, okay, let's not kill him. Let's kill each other instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was another thing that got into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first game I used the storms, too.
Oh, God.
Oh, and this also, yeah.
That's the only reason
other thing?
That's like the main reason I didn't like that game for it as much, along with the Spanish like weird win. So yeah, it's still memorable though. Like there's so many. I love how that game looked too. The oceans, I thought it looked really great compared to the last couple of COE games. So which still good.
I had the that was the game where I first introduced the portals.
Yeah.
The beta version of the Blood Islands were used in this game.
Yeah.
Like, not even, like, the alpha, but, like, the whatever comes before that, like, the pre thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think back then they had, like, it was just, like, a set ability for them. They didn't each have different abilities. They each had, like, one overarching ability.
Yeah.
But I expanded upon them to come back later for Fiends of the Blood Islands. So, yeah, that, the Winter Economy game, yeesh. I've wanted to play another campaign in that same room, where that and COE were played.
Yeah.
The room where I've played the COEC games, the Century of Economy games, which is a little bit of both. The light isn't as good in that room.
Yeah.
But it's easier to set up a table in that room.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
That's why we've done it there.
Yeah. I don't have space in my house or a quantity of tables enough to do a campaign game only on tables, but the table I used for the experimental cumulative game and the Caribbean from Command the Oceans is like 3x3. It's just a basic card table, but it works pretty good. So I definitely want to have like a big room for campaign games only in a future, residence. But that's a long way out. So, yeah.
Yeah, with luck, I'll be able to hopefully get back to that room from the 2015 Century of Empires and the Winter game, because the light is so much better in there. There's like 3 skylights in that room.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just let the light come in, and I've got a significantly better camera now than I did in 2015.
Yeah, good point.
And leading up to that, so.
Yeah. Oh, speaking.
I really want to get back in there.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you think the 2017 campaign will continue or no?
I don't know. At this point, that campaign we started in, I think it was almost a year ago.
Yeah, I think so.
That particular game, originally we were just going to meet once a month and like take over our kitchen table for that. However, between my 2 brothers both having a ton of extracurricular activities, mostly centered around marching band, and myself finishing up like the first phase of my college education and all that stuff, and just being so busy with literally everything else, that game has kind of fallen by the wayside. I think if we invited him to play another campaign game with us, I think he'd agree.
Mm-hmm.
But the trick is, once again, going to be timing and everything, because this summer, my one brother graduates high school, so he's probably going to look to either get a job or go straight into college in the summer.
Yep.
And then my other brother is going from middle school to high school, and he wants to do all kinds of extracurricular band stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
So he's going to be maybe doing summer school. And I am hopefully going to be taking just a wee bit of time off. Excuse me. And I'll probably be looking to get back involved with college stuff spring of 2019. But between now and then, there's a whole bunch of things that I have planned. So I don't even know if the annual COEC game will even get played.
Yeah. It's 3 years running now, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, 3 years running of a campaign in the summer.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've never been able to be that consistent, but I've more since I started in 2011, which feels like a long time ago at this point. But I like how consistent the Vassal games have been, because we did 2 in 2016, then 1 in 2017, then hopefully we'll start another one this year. So
yeah, hopefully we will.
If you want to talk about your project.
Oh yeah, the SS, as I've called the room project. All right. I'm not sure when we're gonna be able to get this podcast posted to the site or all the other sites.
Yeah, should be.
But yeah, I'll give you this little teaser about it. SS is like really, really shorthand for Pirates of the Savage Seas. It's a campaign game. I have started it. So what you were just talking about, starting another campaign on Vassal, been there, done that. And I'm going to have a video up about it on my channel a week from when we get this podcast up.
Nice.
That'll go into it a bit more, reveal what it's all about, rules, maybe. I might post on the forum here at Mini Trading for the rules and whatnot about that. But I think it's going to be quite interesting. I think it's going to be unlike anything anyone's attempted yet.
Yeah, nice.
I'm kind of hoping it is. I'm hoping I'm not biting off more than I can chew and that I can deliver on my end about what I want to have happen. Because I've got, like I said, I've got all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, there's the SS, there's this project I'm doing. There's still CG3 to wrap up. There's our other plans. There's the fleet challenge, the review contest.
Oh yeah,
and life in general.
Yeah. That's what happened to Command the Oceans after October ended. It got kind of stressful, and it kind of hindered my other life stuff, because I thought it was going to end by the end of Thanksgiving, but then to do what I wanted with it, I had to extend until December 15th or something, so it got pretty extreme. So, but that's the thing with Vassal. That's one of the other huge pros, is that you can have an endless game. So that's what we
since it's not taking up any physical space like in your house on a table or an extremely large flat surface. You can just save the file.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, I'll come back to this in a day or 3 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
No fuss, no muss, or no mess, or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't have to stress out about freeing up space in the room or putting stuff away. I love Vassal so much, especially for campaigns. It's just perfect. So, definitely a tool we hope to utilize in the future. So, and to that point, CG3 is kind of wrapping up. I don't think it'll finish before some day in April, but we'll see. Or probably later, if I had to guess, because you always underestimate this sort of thing. But
the Cursed might be able to keep themselves alive by fog hopping all over the map with the Hangman's Joke and the Howl.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe the Sea Hag.
Yeah. And it'll take
although she might stay there to support the fort.
Yeah, and even if the Americans go after everybody, it takes a long time to eliminate factions, of course, especially at the whole end. So, but to that point though, CG3 will end. So, I'll probably I don't know for sure, but I might put out a feeler thread or bring up the old one about starting another campaign game because people might still be interested. I think one of the themes of CG3 is that there's some untapped potential from the newer players because I feel like Vixen and Shkoder 66 is the only one who really, I don't know, who like did a lot in CG3 because the Spanish were eliminated already and the English and Pirates have been mostly out of it for most of the game. So we have basically half of the 6 players haven't really gotten that campaign game epic experience, at least on their own, side of it. So I think another campaign game after CG3 makes sense, but we'll see what happens. So anyway, but yeah, and then Xerecs and I have our own plans, but I don't know.
Oh yeah,
if they're gonna work out. So
we've got
we'll see.
Cloak and Dagger going on a little bit almost.
Yeah. All right. Oh, and then I'm looking at the spreadsheet. We have a spreadsheet for various things, but one of them I made an extra sheet for campaign game results. So I combine all the results of recorded campaign games between Xerecs and I. There's been 14 pretty much so far. Or, well, this includes huge games. So this is basically a huge game legacy thread in a nutshell in a spreadsheet. And the pictures are in that thread. But basically the English have won 5. The French have won 3, the Spanish have won 1, the Pirates 3, and the Americans 1, and the Curse 0, and then other, conglomerate factions is a good way to describe it. I just thought of that term. They haven't won any, but that's kind of a random one. So the English, the French, and the Pirates are generally the best factions for campaign games. The Spanish are pretty good, but they have a weird penchant for being runner-up. They've finished second like 4 times. And then the French usually either do really bad or really good, as evidenced by your games and mine. And then the Pirates are generally pretty good.
Yeah.
They haven't won in a while, but the Pirates they're obviously still a great faction. So the English are really dominant in the wars, which are pretty emphasized in the CGs. So yeah. Anyway, there's a lot more to say, but we also plan to do sometime, hopefully this year, we want to do a YouTube collaboration where we talk more in depth about campaign games, like solely campaign games, nothing else, and maybe go over more of ours in detail and, talk about strategy and setup and memorable moments and things like that. So hopefully we'll make that video eventually, but anyway, yeah, probably wrap it up here.
And you date your campaign history to like 2011 as the year it began, more or less?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I'm looking at the Venom campaign spreadsheet thing you've got here.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not positive, but I think I may have played something that qualifies as a campaign like a year or 2 before then.
Yeah.
I'm not positive. Because I remember... Yeah, when did you... Hang on a second. See, when did you start the Battle Reports thread?
Pojo was 2011, but Miniature Trading was 2013 for Century of the Empires. So.
Okay. Okay, then it may have been later than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, before 2011, I basically played like historical fantasy scenarios, which are just like a fun thing. It's not Pirate CSG, it's just a fun thing with the ships. So, but it's pretty epic and cool. But anyway, yeah.
Because I had one that was we spent the gold we gathered, and it was our own personal ships. I had discovered the forum, but I wasn't a member yet.
Yeah.
Because I think I lurked on the forum for maybe half a year or a couple months before I joined.
Yeah, that's about what I did.
And so I think I did this not... I'm having trouble remembering about this one.
Yeah.
Except that in the end, we cycled through all the ships we had, which at that point I think totaled to somewhere between the 3 of us, we had maybe 60 ships.
Yeah.
Ish. And I had like 3 left. And like one of them was like one that we had put back together with spare pieces. And I think it was the HMS St. George.
Okay.
Was like my biggest ship at the time. the one from Rise of the Fiends.
Yeah.
And I think I had the English Catamaran and a couple other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I must have discovered the forum when I played this, because we used George Washington LeBeau from RSS.
Yeah.
And we had, like, there was, for a while there, it was like, okay, who could, because since he was a crew, he could be launched by any one of us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, first come, first serve on the crew.
Mm-hmm.
So first, one of my brothers had him, and then he died somehow, I think.
Yeah.
And then my other brother had him, and then I went out of my way to kill him so I could get him.
Yeah.
And it wound up that I had him on a ship. And, like, they were like, my brothers both teamed up to try to stop me.
Oh.
But I think I somehow did something where I pulled together and got a victory.
Nice.
And this, like, shows, like, my serious misunderstanding of the rules at the time. I was playing under the assumption that you could only give one ship in action per turn.
I've had some issues with teaching newbies. They're surprised that that's not the case. So, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a good, like, 2 or 3 years where I played games that way.
Yeah.
It's like only one ship can be given an action.
Yeah.
Which made those Fleet Admiral crew, because I think I misread the ability of those Fleet Admiral crews. Like, you make 2 ships in action. It was like, ooh, 2 ships in action.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Okay.
Or something. So.
Yeah.
That was like the first ever campaign that I played.
Yeah. That would make those go so slow.
What year I was in.
Yeah, that would make it go so slow because you have one action and then next player and then one action. Because you wouldn't be able to take, like, breaks in between players' turns and stuff. Because your turn would be right after that. That'd be crazy. Huh. Yeah, I've had some issues.
Based on the fact that we used LeBeau in there, and that I joined the forum on... What day is it? It's on my profile somewhere.
Oh, yeah, it's like May 2014. I remember seeing it. So.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I lurked for a year or less before I joined.
Yeah.
But I had discovered the forums. I wasn't a member, but I was reading stuff. I think I may have read, like, the first... I think at that point, Battle Reports had, like, maybe 3 pages.
Yeah.
And they all that century of Empire stuff.
Yep.
So I might have played my game based off that, or some. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But that's, like, I have, like, semi-fond memories of that because I don't remember a whole lot of it, but it was, like, the first one I ever did.
Exactly.
So
that's exactly the case with me with that 2011 cumulative game that I didn't have a battle report for until 2014 when I finally wrote it up, and I'm glad I did because I probably wouldn't remember nearly as much today as I did in 2014. So I'm glad I wrote that up. It's actually become probably my most nostalgic game, but also one of my favorite battle reports at the same time. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Just as a random aside, Wolf did just respond in the rules thread a few minutes ago.
Oh, awesome.
And he confirmed what was already basically in the pirate code, but he says fire only spreads to other masts, not empty slots. So if there are none left and you roll for the fire to spread, nothing happens. So kind of just a rule I disagree with, but oh well. I guess flavor-wise, as I said in my post, you can kind of think of it as like, if there's not another mast to consume by the fire, it just doesn't really spread to that part of the ship. But I don't know. But the deck's going to be wood too, so it's kind of weird. But oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's pretty much all I got to say about campaigns for this one. Hopefully we'll do a YouTube video about it later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do something where we record on Vassal or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts on CGs or customs or anything?
Not off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, I don't keep much as detailed records as you do.
Yeah.
So, my win percentages or, like, whatever and whatnot, I don't really keep track of that so much.
Yeah. Well, we could determine from it some of that from the battle reports, but yeah, you won the 2015 COE and then you won one of the last 2 COECs, right?
Yeah, the most recent Century of Economy.
Yeah, with the English.
Or the English one, and we finally
Nice.
played one where a faction got eliminated.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yep.
My brother is still salty about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was the English and I think the French. He was the Pirates and I think the Americans or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I might be getting it mixed up with another one.
Yeah.
But it was the Pirates that got eliminated.
Yep.
And now he like completely hates the Pirates because he says it's like they're useless.
Oh, yeah. It's
They
their
couldn't
fault, right?
stop the English.
Yeah.
But then again, to be fair, I came at him with like the entire English fleet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I never want to blame my loss on a faction. So, especially after winning CG2 with the English and then doing well with the Americans CG3 now. So, I can understand the curse to have a bit of a handicap, but customs make up for it somewhat. So, and speaking of which, so you should get your brothers on Vassal, of course. So, as I'll say again and again. So, and then you should have.
Well, one of them's on the site on the on mini trading.
Yeah, he hasn't posted again yet, but maybe you could show him the podcast, this one, episode 2, and then they'd be more motivated.
I might show it to him.
Yeah, you should check it out. So, all right, so this was an episode mostly about customs and campaign games. Hopefully, we'll have God Mason back for the next one, another random episode, and then eventually Frozen North set review, I guess, is next as well. So this was episode 17, though, of the Pirate CSG podcast. It was a lot of fun, and we'll talk to you again later. So thanks for listening.